Testing. Get your cocktails ready, ladies and gentlemen. We've got 203rd Old Humble Happy Hour is about to begin.
A little ordinary? Is it lacking something awesome? Well, head out to your local liquor store and pick up something extraordinary. Grab a bottle of Old Humble Straight Whiskey or Old Humble Special Reserve. They're clean, smooth, easy drinking whiskeys that taste the way whiskey should taste. From humble beginnings to an extraordinary finish, Old Humble whiskeys are what your bar needs today. Walk tall, be awesome, and drink humble. Old Humble Straight Whiskey and Old Humble Special Reserve. Get yours today.
Get yours today, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. You could do yourselves a big favor by getting yourself a bottle of my fine damn whiskey. It is available at stores all across the state of Texas. And, I mean, what else you can do with your money, right? Well, you're going to go get cable, you're going to go buy pizza, you're going to go do nonsensical stuff like that. Come on. You know better. This beard is getting fluffy. I got to trim this down. Down like this. I am the Old Humble guy. My friends, my fellow countrymen, my denizens of the internet world. Cheers to all of y'all. Welcome, Vanessa Kitty. I see Mike McClune and Sunflowers have all joined into chat already. Appreciate you fine folks being here. Tonight, you know what? This is a big damn night. I decided to renumber because we did 100 episodes of the Happy Hour 1.0 during the pandemic years, 2020 and 2021, from March forward to, I guess, June of 2021. We did 100 episodes, and then we kicked this back on in, I want to say, September or October of 2021, and we've gotten through another 100 episodes since then, and I decided to change the numbering from 100 to 200 to reflect the number of shows that we've actually done. And now we're going to kick it on and keep going and see how far we go before I lose interest. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't know how long we're going to keep this going. We might keep it going to 300. I may at some point just lose interest entirely in doing the live shows and just stop doing them. I don't see that happening anytime soon. But we're kicking it off and doing a good time. I am drinking my opening shot now. This is our Special Reserve. Cheers to you fine folks. Is the glass really that cloudy, or is it just, there's like fingerprints all over it. Anyway, cheers fine folks. A delightful, delightful concoction. That is 90% corn and 10% malted barley. Aged 5 years in used bourbon barrels, finished in new bourbon barrels. It is our Black Label Special Reserve. It is the second original label under the Old Humble logo. The first being our straight whiskey. Well, I guess the first was our Boomtown Bourbon. I guess that's our third original label. Boomtown Bourbon being the first original label. Straight whiskey being the second. Special Reserve being the third. And our fourth being our Double Oak Rye. But tonight we are drinking a freshly bottled bottle of our Boomtown Bourbon. This is the classic label. The new label will be set up in January. The new label will be set up in January, and there will be a big label reveal in January, probably during a 72-hour live streaming special that I am currently in the planning stages of doing. A 72-hour live streaming special because partly I am crazy and partly because I'm trying to get my watch hours up. So check it out. A little housekeeping, behind the scenes information here. Um, the goal in February was to get 100,000 views by the end of December 2022. That would be just a couple of weeks from now. The end of December 2022, the goal was to have 100,000 views on the channel. We hadn't had a whole lot of views. I thought that would be an extremely ambitious number to shoot for. An arbitrary number, granted, but I thought it was ambitious at the time because we had only gotten really 4,000 or so unique views. Total on the channel was 40,000, but those 40,000, like 36,000 of them was from just like 3 videos. So we had about 4,000, maybe 5,000 unique views, earned views, if you will, over the course of 2 full years, to all of 2020, all of 2021. So I thought 100,000 was going to be ambitious as hell. We are, as of right now, about 10,000 views away from hitting 500,000 views for the year. That's just crazy. Hold on one second. See if my lovely wife will come and join me for a second. I need some technical assistance real quick. And as a sideline to that, we were able to add. Look at this. We added from we went from about 400 subscribers to over 1,200, almost 1,300 subscribers over the course of this year. Hello, my loveliness. My lovely wife has just opened the door. Can you do me a favor, my sweet? Can you do me a favor? Can you reach over there and flip that light switch? Like, I thought about getting up and leaving the camera myself to do it, but I'm on camera. I don't want to get up and flip that light switch. It's way over there. Could you please, my love? She also doesn't want me to fight a kangaroo. But what she doesn't know won't hurt her. You can see the look. If you could actually.
No, I'm not dressed for
she's
the
gonna
camera.
she's gonna run off if I turn the camera. I love you, my sweet. I love you, my sweet. Thank you so much. Thank you. I won't whistle again. Probably. I promise. I promise that I probably won't whistle. She's a fox. Oh, I love her. Wow. Goodness, look at that. Oh, y'all can't see what I see through that window. Ooh, she fine. Oh, anyway, okay. So that was the goal in February, and we had this added side benefit. And I said that I was going to. I've been making this joke since March, April, May, since May of 2020. That if we crossed 1,000 subscribers, I was going to fight a kangaroo. And as we were getting closer to that number, I said, you know, I need to put a cap on this. Let's do it by the end of November. If we do it by the end of November, I'll fight a kangaroo. And damn, if you find folks didn't come through and blow me up over 1,000 subscribers by the end of November. So now I kind of feel obligated to fight the kangaroo. And to that end, I have established the Interspecies Boxing Federation. The Interspecies Boxing Federation. I'm looking at having our inaugural fight in mid-January. The inaugural fight, it's not just going to be one fight. We're going to have a whole fight card. We're going to have a whole series of fights because I figure we'll do a whole interspecies boxing thing. We'll do a whole set of animals set up against each other. So we'll do like a small dog versus a fox. We'll do a goat versus an alpaca. We'll do an ostrich versus an emu. That would be a good matchup. I want to do a penguin versus a something. I'm not sure what a good matchup for a penguin would be, but that would be a good like a good fight to see, like, you know, penguins slapping at each other. Maybe like a penguin versus a chimpanzee. That'd be good. Penguin versus chimpanzee. Actually, that might be a little lopsided. Chimpanzee might beat the piss out of a penguin. Maybe 2 penguins. 2 penguins versus 1 chimpanzee. That'd probably be a good fight. Maybe if they were the big penguins. And then finally, a dual double header at the top of the card. My niece has said that she would fight a llama. She thinks she can beat up a llama, and I said, you know, I know a guy. I know a guy who's got this interspecies boxing federation. You could be one of the headline fights for the interspecies boxing federation. So I want to hook my niece up with a fight against a llama, and then of course the headliner for the night, me versus a kangaroo. And I've already made a couple of phone calls, made a couple of placed a couple of messages with the Civic Center here in town. Called up a company to rent a boxing rink. They're only like $2,500 to rent a boxing rink, so that's cheap as hell. Um, and it's not like the full like lifted off the floor boxing rink. This is just like a practice sparring boxing rink. So doing that. Um, Vanessa Kitty doesn't want me to fight one of you. Well, we'll do it live. We'll do the fight live, or at least pre-recorded here on the YouTubes, and we'll post the video, and it's just going to be dope as hell. So, um, so that's tentatively scheduled for mid-January, late January. Depends on when I can get all the stuff together. Wrangling the animals, wrangling the facility, wrangling the people, all that stuff. And of course, we're going to want to sell tickets because that's going to be it's going to be a hell of a show. We're going to want to sell tickets. We're going to want to do. We're going to want to do this up right. I need a couple of weeks to train and make sure that my cardio is up to snuff, and then we can do the stuff that we need to do, and we will have this thing go. And it's going to be the Interspecies Boxing Federation, the first ever fight in the first ever bout for the championship belt, the Intercontinental Championship belt of the Interspecies Boxing Federation, the ISBIF. The ISBIF, and we will crown a champion that night. Flashing logo there. Awesome. Okay, so that's the housekeeping stuff that I wanted to do. We'll do some trivia tomorrow night. That's Thursday night. Friday night we don't have a band. I may go live and we'll just do a live show Friday night. Maybe we'll do one of those open forum shows, and I'll go through StreamYard, and we'll have people come in and we'll talk about all this stuff. Tonight we're talking about free speech as our front end topic, and it is right about the time of the show where we kick into the topic. We're just a couple minutes shy of that, and that's fine. And we're going to kick into that topic. But first, I want to pour myself a glass of my delicious cocktail. So tonight, it's not really a cocktail, it's just drink. Because cocktails, as you all know, if you've been paying attention to Professor Old Humble Guy's shows in the past, cocktails involve 3 ingredients: alcohol, bitters, or alcohol flavors, bitters, and sugar and water. Sugar water. Alcohol, bitters, and sugar. And sugar water. Simple syrup, alcohol, bitters. That's basically what a cocktail is. You put in a little additional flavoring as a garnish or whatever, but that is basically what a cocktail is. And just bourbon is not technically a cocktail. It is, as you can guess, just bourbon. And this bourbon, I'm drinking it on the rocks with my ice, which is cloudy because nobody gives a shit about your ice. I'm telling you, all you clear ice people who swear by it, nobody cares. If they are drinking your cup filled with your whiskey and they go, that ice is delicious, you have done it wrong. You have absolutely 100% done it wrong. They should drink your drink and say, damn, that's some fine whiskey. If they talk about the ice, you fucked up. Nobody drinks a Mai Tai. Nobody drinks a daiquiri. Nobody drinks a pina colada or a frozen margarita and go, oh, wow, this ice really did it. Nobody cares about your ice. Nobody. Nobody. Promise you. Cross my heart. Promise you. If they're talking about your ice, your whiskey's unimportant. Your whiskey has failed completely and totally. So, what was I going to tell you about this particular bourbon? This particular bourbon is made here in the Houston area. It is traditional Kentucky-style tri-grain, but it is a Texas bourbon whiskey. Made 72% corn. We add a little bit extra corn to give it a little bit sweeter flavor to it. Take a little bit off the rye so that it doesn't have quite that edge to it, and then the balance is made up with malted barley. We age it 6 months in small 5-gallon oak barrels. That's one of the reasons why it has a little bit lighter texture to it, a little bit lighter color than other bourbons, such as, I don't have any clear bourbon bottles. But yeah, it's a little bit lighter than your typical bourbons, but You know, if we had it in a big barrel for a little bit longer, maybe it would get a little bit more color to it, but I don't think it actually would. Um, but it is because we also finish it off with our rainwater. It has a nice, delightful finish to it. It doesn't have any of that municipal water impurities that has to be removed through various processes and get left behind, even with those processes, even when those processes are perfectly efficient. So our water is delightful, our whiskey is delightful, and when it touches your lips, oh, it's all divine. Mm. So that said, let's get on with it. Free speech. What the hell even is it? Well, I mean, we all know. We all know. We're all Americans, right? Or most of us are Americans, and even folks who aren't Americans, you're familiar with our First Amendment. The Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of association, freedom of the press, uh, or freedom of religion or expression thereof, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We all know the First Amendment. First Amendment is not free speech. The First Amendment simply protects our speech from the government. Free speech, and maybe that is all free speech is, but in general terms, in general parlance, what we generally talk about when we talk about free speech is that we're allowed to say whatever we want. We're allowed to say what's on our mind, right? We are 100% allowed to say what's on our mind. We can say what's on our mind without any concern or any hesitation, um, or anything, any expectation of reprisal from our governing bodies. The state can't tell us that we're not allowed to criticize the state. The city government can't tell us that we're not allowed to criticize our city. The federal government is not allowed to tell us that we can't criticize the federal government. We can make up stories about our federal government. We can, hell, Alex Jones proved this. You can lie about the federal government for years. You can have a successful radio show. You can do blog posts. You can do online nonsensical news bullshit. You can do anything you want. You can do podcasts. You can do radio interviews, and you can lie up and down and make money off of the federal government all you want to do. You can make up any stories you want about the Army. You can make up any stories you want about NASA. You can lie about faking the moon landing. You can lie about the flat Earth. You can lie about whatever you want to do about the federal government. They can't do anything to you. I'm pretty sure if you lie about individuals in government, I'm pretty sure that they can sue you individually. But if you just lie about the federal government, I'm pretty sure they can't do anything to you. I mean, there may be some lawyers out there. I'm not a lawyer, so do not take this as legal advice and be all like going to court when you get sued and be all like, well, the old humble guy said, yeah, I don't know who you are. Um, but I'm pretty sure as long as you're just talking about the feds, you can get away with what if the Fed is raising interest rates because they're army of lizard people and blah 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 blah. I'm pretty sure the First Amendment prevents them from suing you for any kind of libel. Pretty sure. Um, However, if you lie about a specific individual in the federal government, like if you say the Federal Reserve Chairman, what's his face, is raising rates because his army of lizard people, blah, 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 blah. I'm pretty sure the Federal Reserve Chairman can then sue your ass. I'm pretty sure. Don't hold me to that. Lisa is not here to tell me otherwise. But I'm sure she would set me straight and be like, actually, and you know, you can lie about the president, but you can lie about the presidency. But if you state the president specifically, I'm pretty sure he could sue you. I don't think he would, but I'm pretty sure he could. Um, and speaking of Alex Jones, that's kind of what if I'm as I understand the casework, that's what got him in trouble. Is that he stopped lying about the federal government. All his stupid 9/11 truther claims were fine, legally speaking. Uh, but once you cross that line and stop lying about uh, false flag operations, and whatever other nonsense bullshit he was talking about when it came to Sandy Hook, once you start lying about individual people, either in the federal government or individual civilians, well, now you don't have free speech anymore. because that speech is not free. You're not allowed to say whatever you want. You're explicitly forbidden to lie about specific people and specific people's actions and specific people's motives and all this other shit. And when he got into lying about individuals at Sandy Hook and individual families and individual human beings who were, what was he saying? Crisis actors, not weren't really the kids didn't really die. All this other nonsensical bullshit that he was talking about. Once you start lying about individuals and individual people, you can lose your entire bullshit media empire. Um, and he is and he is in the process of losing his entire bullshit media empire because his entire bullshit, or at least a significant portion of his entire bullshit media empire, was predicated on lying about specific individual people and specific activities that those specific individual people participated in. And those specific individual people sued the piss out of him. And he, I mean, I don't think they're entitled to his pants, considering they've been on fire since the beginning of his radio program. I don't think they want him, even if they did get him. I think they would probably pass on getting his lying fire pants. But that's kind of where the line gets drawn. You can make up all the shit you want about the federal government. They're constitutionally prohibited from going after you for all your lies and nonsensical bullshit. But if you lie about specific individual people, you don't have that free speech, and that's not allowed. That is specifically by law forbidden. And then and then lately at least the conversation has been swirling around uh, tech platforms and media giants censoring free speech and how we're not allowed to say. You've never been allowed to say whatever you want to say on platforms such as this one or any other social media platform. I mean, basically, Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and all the others, TikTok and Instagram and all these guys, they're not just an open field out there in the world where you can just go stand in the middle of God's open territory and scream whatever nonsensical bullshit you want to scream. A lot of people scream nonsensical bullshit. It seems that you can scream whatever nonsensical bullshit you want. But all of those social media platforms are basically a giant globe theater with thousands of stages. Thousands and thousands, millions of stages, billions in some case. And you are literally allowed to go take a stage almost whenever you want to and say and do whatever you want. But the operators of the Globe Theater uh, also have people that go from stage to stage to make sure that the performances that you are putting on each one of these individual stages adhere to the standards of the Globe Theater, because the Globe Theater also operates in the city that London in this case. If we want to carry this analogy forward, the Globe Theater exists in London, or it existed. I don't think it does anymore, but it existed in London. And there's rules and regulations that the Globe Theater has to maintain. They're a member of the community. They have to maintain their decorum with the community. So you can't just go into the Globe Theater and drop your pants and take a dump on stage. They wouldn't allow that. I mean, they might have at the time. I don't know. I don't know if they actually, but let's say in this day and age, I don't think they'd allow that. They'd be like, I know the Alley Theater here in Houston wouldn't allow that. The Performing Arts Center here in Humble, they wouldn't allow that. They'd be like, you can't do that. You can't take a dump on stage. I don't care what kind of art that is. We have to clean that shit up. Like, literally clean that shit up. You're not allowed back. You can probably get away with it once, but they're not going to let you come back twice. I'm picturing the Performing Art Theater here in Humble as an old high school. I'm wondering how many times when that place was an actual high school that somebody actually took a dump on stage. I'm sure it happened at least once or twice. Uh, and speaking of Charles Bender High School, back when it was built, if you were a black high schooler, you didn't go to that school. So there were definitely community standards in place at that high school up until when it was built. Well, those standards changed over time. Or the old Charles Bender High School, the new Charles Bender High School was integrated, but the old Charles Bender High School was not. If you were a black high school student, you didn't go to that school district. You went to the North Shore School District on the other side of the district. They definitely had community standards in place. There definitely was not free speech allowed, free association, free expression allowed at the old Charles Bender High School theater. Absolutely not. They didn't allow that shit. You think free speech is always a thing? Free speech isn't. It's not what we think it is. It's not what we claim it is. We are absolutely beholden to the standards of communities, and communities have standards which fluctuate all the time. The big question is who gets to make those standards in the community, and arguably the people who own the community get to make those standards. When people don't own the community, when it's a broad open forum, like for example the city streets, escalators, stand to the right, walk to the left. Who enforces those community standards? Arguably, the people walking on the left enforce those community standards because if you're standing on the left, they're going to tell you. You'll get an earful from those sons of bitches. The people who walk up escalators, they are just rude to the escalator. That is the escalator's one and only job. Hang on one second. That is the escalator's one and only job. And you're gonna get on that escalator who has one job only. That poor robot has one job, one specific job, and that is to take your big fat dumb lazy ass from floor 1 up to floor 2. And you're gonna tell that escalator, nah, it's cool, I'll walk. Come on. That robot has what you are hurting that robot. You are rude to that poor little robot. All it wants to do you jump in the elevator too? You get in the elevator and you jump up to the second floor while you're in the. That is you people. You let the robots do their job. Let the robots do their job. Is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I mean, do you take one of those air wrenches, the little impact drivers, and you sit there and twist it while you're pushing the button? You hit the button. You go. You twist your. Don't do that. Like let the robots do their job. We have machines for a purpose. Let them do their job. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, community standards. Communities get to reinforce their standards. That's what communities do. If communities don't reinforce their standards, they don't have standards. If they don't have standards, and they're not communities. They're not real communities if they don't have standards. It's just a group of people standing around together. They don't have standards. Anybody can go stand there. And if there's literally anybody who's allowed in, then the group then has no identity. There's no conformity. You can have a nonconformist group, but that's not a group. That's just a gaggle of people standing around in an area. So there you go. There's your free speech there. You don't have free speech on social media platforms. The people who own the platform, they get to control your speech, just like I get to control the speech in my house. You want to come in my house and start spewing some nonsensical Nazi propaganda bullshit and telling me that there's gay frogs making your son gay? No, fuck that shit. You're out. Go, shoot, get out of here. Yeah, you want to stay for dinner? You got to clam that crap up, or get out. You're not going to stay for dinner while you're jabbering that nonsense. You go. Shoot. And each one of our channels, we have our own standards here on our channels. I mean, I'll probably let you take off your shirt on my channel. I'm not going to take off my shirt on because I have standards of my own. But I definitely have baseline standards. I was thinking about people taking off their shirt. I definitely have baseline standards on my channel. Definitely have baseline standards. You could come on my channel with your nonsensical bullshit. You're not going to be invited back. I'll tolerate a wide latitude of nonsensical bullshit. So there are specific nonsensical bullshit lines that you can cross, and you don't get to cross those twice. Because I have standards. And that's one of the things that's made me laugh the last 2 or 3. I guess it's been 2 or 3 weeks now. With all this Elon Musk and Twitter and all this other bullshit, he's like, we're gonna have free speech back on Twitter. Like, Twitter's never had free speech, you dumb idiot. For a really smart guy, Elon Musk is dumb as shit. It gives you hope that even idiots can become billionaires. They can fall ass backwards into $1 billion and parlay that $1 billion in another $100 billion or whatever. But man, smart people can be stupid sometimes. Really, really, really stupid sometimes. Free speech is back on Twitter. Free speech has never been on Twitter. Twitter just enforced community standards for a change. And it was about goddamn time they did. And Elon's realizing really fast that without like basic community standards, advertisers get a little bit jumpy. And without advertisers, Twitter doesn't make a lot of money. But Twitter's a different animal. Twitter's a different kind of animal because I don't really think social media platforms. Uh, I don't really think they can be sold and bought because they can be monetized. They can be turned into public companies, but I don't think they can be bought and taken back into private companies because that's a there's a whole like value creation, value demolition thing, and when you a lot of their value seems to be the development of a community, and when you try to buy that community, it's non-tangible, and when you try to buy that community, you're paying money for something that's not tangible and then trying to monetize that non-tangible thing. And this is business speak, it's going to be esoteric and weird, but when you try to monetize a non-tangible object, it very rarely turns out good, and bankruptcies tend to happen a lot. But we'll get into that more later, I'm sure, too. That'll probably come up more now in this second half of the show. That's enough of that. That's where I stand. I mean, y'all know where I stand on the free. I love free speech. Free speech is wide open. I love the fact that my government can't tell me what to say at all. They can try, but unless they're paying me money, they can't control a word of what comes out of my mouth. And I love that for this country. That is what we do. That is how we have a free expression of ideas and a free association of ideas, and we're allowed to criticize our government, and we're allowed to make our country better that way. That's how we do things. We are allowed to look around and say, this is not as good as it could be. Let's do something about it. And in other places, if you look around and say, this is not as good as it could be, we could do better, you end up, disappearing, and your family gets a bill for the bullets that they put in you. And that's not the way to build a great country. And that is, by the way, one of the many, 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 many reasons that the United States will not be eclipsed by some authoritarian dictatorship, because those authoritarian dictatorships don't teach people how to think. And at the very, very least, while America may not teach people to think very well, people learn how to think in the United States very well. We learn how to put things together and consider things and consider options. I mean, there's a whole generation of people that doesn't do that very well. Two generations of people that doesn't do that very well. But for the most part, people here in America, we look at things, and we look at different ways to take things apart and put things back together, and take them apart and put them back together, and that's what we do. We think of shortcuts and ways around and loopholes and all the other stuff that we do, and that's one of the many, many things that makes us great. But that said, even if you're thinking of ways to take things apart and put it back together, if you're working at a place like GE or Timex or Motorola or wherever the hell else you work here in the States, because yes, Motorola, I know it's a Norwegian company, but you still work at or Icelandic, but you can still do it here in the States. The company's not going to let you just take stuff apart and put it back together and figure out new ways of doing things. And even if you did take a phone apart and put it back together and think of a new way of making a phone, that company is not going to let you keep that idea, because that company owns that idea because you did it on company time. Try it. See if you get away with it. That's how it works. So even when you sell your time to a company, you don't have that kind of free speech. You don't have the free speech you think you have when you're working for a company. And that's just how things are. Let's jump over to chat. Let's jump. I've jabbered on long enough. We've given y'all a chance to build up a nice head of steam over there in chat. Let's see where the conversation is going on my other panel here. Whoosh! There we are. I stopped things back at right at 10 o'clock. How about that? All right, so let's roll forward from 10 o'clock to everybody saying the highs. There's the Mrs. Old Humble joining the party, where Vanessa Kitty says hello. Taco Syndicate is in the party. Who don't love freeze? What? Freeze peach. All right, you got me. I was reading. Yep, I read that exactly. Yep, you got me. Good job. Taco Syndicate is in that. I don't think I've seen the Taco Syndicate name on my page, but I absolutely appreciate seeing you joining the party. Cheers. Where do I come down on hate speech? Okay, so that is a tricky that's a tricky concept, because hate speech is inherently defined by the society. And I don't think that the federal government constitutionally or in any way appropriately the uh, has the authority to regulate speech of any kind. I don't think they get to determine what hate speech is. I don't want to see a prosecutor prosecuting people for hate speech. I don't want to see that. I have absolutely no problem with communities establishing standards and saying, you know what, you can do all your little racist and Nazi and whatever nonsensical bullshit you want to do, but we also have a right to beat the piss out of you and get you out of our town if that's what we so choose as well. I really, 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 really uh, like the idea of communities policing themselves when it comes to community standards and speech standards and such. Um, but when it comes to uh, stuff like that, like hate speech, stuff like that, I really, really don't like the idea of the federal government making that determination. I don't like it at all. I'm moving myself around. Hold tight. Um, this button, did that work? Nope. Is it this one? There we go. I needed a little bit more screen over here. Now I think there is allowance for inflammatory speech where you could say, you know, they incited me, they incited a reaction, they were being provocative and attempting to provoke a response, and they got their response. They fucked around, they found out. I think there's room in statutes for that because that allows for the community policing of incendiary or provocative behavior uh, because you know like for example down here in the South we've had well all across the country for that matter they've had Klan rallies and Klan members. I mean it doesn't happen as much as it used to, but you know they would you know gather up and they would have their little parade and they'd walk their little uh, uh, white hoods and all the shit down Main Street of their little town and they would have their little circle jerk parties or whatever the fuck the Klan used to do. Um, and if you did anything about it, you know, you were the bad guy. They were just exercising their right to do whatever they wanted, you know, whatever. I could foresee or I could conceivably see a circumstance where if a group of people were gathering in order to provoke the town folk, so to speak, then the town would be within their rights to respond accordingly. However, the flip side to that uh, also would have to be argued where if a group of people were gathering to demonstrate for let's say civil rights and it was provocative uh, to a group of people in town and they decided to descend upon the civil rights rally and cause a ruckus. So you know they're there that edge cuts both ways, so to speak. So I think ultimately the argument needs to be made uh, for civility on both sides. Uh, Now the argument could be made that a group of people demonstrating uh, and marching and advocating for the extermination or removal or uh, destruction of another group of people is in and of itself not civil and not peaceful and not a peaceful demonstration at all. It's incendiary and insightful and uh, provocative in and of itself versus a group of people advocating for equality and civil rights and you know just being treated like humans. Um, so the argument can be further made on both sides, but uh, I think it is you know hate speech in general, I think, is just it's a tough topic to broach. Um, and I think stuff like that is uh, better left to community standards and let the community deal with it. If they don't want their little if they don't want these jackoffs marching in their khakis with tiki torches, let the community deal with that. And you end up with something like Charlestown, Charleston, where you have your khaki brigades running around trying to protect a Civil War statue and driving into a crowd of people, being counter protested by or the people trying to take down. Whatever the hell happened, where you had the people demonstrating to take down the stupid statue of some traitorous rebel piece of shit. And then the people were like, "Oh no, this is part of our racist heritage," and they wanted to keep that shit up. And then they're coming literally to start a fight, and they got to fight. And um, there's a lot to be said on both on the side of civility, and a lot to be said on the side of allowing communities to police themselves and protecting people who have been incited into anger and offensive action. We tend to be fairly sympathetic when two people are arguing, as people do, and then the one person goes "Yo mama" and then catches a fist to the mouth. You tend to be a little bit sympathetic because, like, dude, you lipped off. You got what was coming to you. And in Texas, the "you got what's coming to you" defense is a valid defense in most courts. Um, we tend to be sympathetic to the guy who gives the guy who had what's coming to him what was coming to him. We tend to be fairly sympathetic. Um, we tend to be less sympathetic to the guy standing on the corner screaming "Heil Hitler" when he gets punched in the face, because you kind of deserve to get punched in the face when you're doing shit like that. Um, but we're a little bit less sympathetic when it's 100 people uh, descending upon a group of 100 other people who are protesting or whatever. We tend to be a little bit less sympathetic when it's a full scale riot. On either side of people doing stuff like that, we tend to be a little bit less sympathetic when all hell breaks loose. So that's definitely something that warrants a whole lot more discussion. And it seems like an easy thing to do. It seems like it would be fairly simple. Like, we just outlaw these words. You can't outlaw words. You can't do it. You can make it socially expensive, uh, socially caustic. You can make it uh, very costly for people to say it on a social level, but that's not universal, because there's plenty of places where certain things are perfectly acceptable and they think they can get away with it when they're in a group of people that they think thinks like them. And that's our job to say, no, 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 dude, that's out of line. You need to leave. And that's that's the social policing of social standards. It's the community policing of community standards. So there you go. JLM has joined the party. Cheers, JLM. Um, damn, 20 minutes behind. Me not chatting. Okay. This Fox News sued by, Dominion voting system. That's a perfect example. Fox News can say that the Federal Election Commission is corrupt and blah blah blah, all this shit. They're going to look the other way and look the other. But when they come out and say Dominion voting systems machines are uh, uh, hacked by Venezuela and blah blah blah. Well, now you're messing with Dominion voting machines' assets and their livelihood and their ability to make money and sell machines in the future. You're impugning their reputation and impugning their integrity, and they absolutely are going to sue the shit out of you and win. And Fox News is going to have to pay out the eyes for lying about Dominion voting machines. That is a very excellent example. Very excellent example. The argument can be made that Elon Musk isn't all that bright. That is a fair. I think he's fairly bright. He's got good ideas. he doesn't have a lot of he doesn't have the wherewithal for the follow through of ideas, but he tends to have good concepts. He's like, I want to do this thing. And he has enough money to be able to put behind the idea and turn it into a thing. Um, he's good at systems. He's good at engineering, fairly good at engineering. He's good at systems, and he's good at putting things together and getting good people working on solving the problems. He's really good at finding the problems, really good at working on solving the problems and getting people to help him solve the problems. But he doesn't build spaceships. He didn't draw the spaceships. He might have drawn them on paper, but he didn't build Teslas. He doesn't build Tesla battery system. He doesn't build any of that shit. He helped with PayPal. I don't know if he was the chief architect when it came to PayPal or not, but even that system wasn't perfect. And the only reason why he was able to sell that for the mint that he sold it for was because I believe eBay bought it, because it was a great system for eBay to use. It was either eBay or Amazon. I think it was eBay. It was a great system for eBay to use to sell their stuff, for people in auctions to sell their stuff to people who bought the stuff. PayPal was a great way to transfer those funds. It was a great system for that purpose, and that's why they got bought, and that's how he made his fucking money. But he doesn't build cars. He doesn't build spaceships. He doesn't build. He builds the ideas, and he does a really good job at selling those ideas and selling the big vision of putting people on Mars and being a dual planet society and doing all this other. He has big ideas, and he's really good at selling those ideas. I'm not sure how smart he is. I get the sense that he's not a complete dumbass. I get a sense that he's a pretty smart guy. I doubt seriously that he's a genius, but I get the sense that he's a really smart guy. I get that sense at least. So, where do conspiracy theories fit into speech? Oh, conspiracy theories fit right into free speech. You can come up with whatever dumb nonsense you want to come up with. You want to call it you want to be that kid that came up with the fake idea of or the fake conspiracy of the government killing all the birds and all the birds are robots for surveillance. You want to be that kid? That's fine. That's a funny story, and because it's a funny little cult conspiracy. No, the people who adhere to the birds are robots thing, they know it's a joke. They're in on the joke. They're all down with the joke. Um, it's the idiots who think it's not a joke they're the butt of the joke, and that's the whole point of the joke. That there's going to be some dumbass who believes this. And I kind of think that that's how the flat Earth stuff started. This latest go round. Now, if your dumb conspiracy theory actually causes harm to people, like you're running around with miracle berries or miracle cures or whatever, like Dr. Oz was doing, I think you open yourself up for false advertising, false claims, and uh, lawsuits of all sorts. The people who did those weight loss pills that cause people to have heart attacks. Um, they were the herbal things that would like juice up your metabolism, basically caffeine pills, and make your heart race, and then you would have a heart attack. Uh, hydrothermodone, thermo something, thermo. I don't remember what it was called, but this was like late '90s. The nutritional supplement pyramid scheme, multi-level marketing people. They got sued for their false claims. All these, non-medical cures, non-medical treatments for herbal shit. Those guys get sued all the time for their nonsensical claims. Um, I mean, that's not conspiracy theory, but it's nonsense. Pure, straight up, unadulterated nonsense. Um, those guys get sued all the time for their nonsense. And if you're someone like Dr. Oz who pushes nonsense, fake cures, and snake oil, you get sued a lot. And that dude is such a fraud. I can't believe he ran for Senate. I can't believe there was a chance that he would win a Senate seat. God, what is wrong with these people in this fucking country? Anyway, that's an aside. Herschel fucking Walker. And that guy, barely sentient, barely. Oh God. Anyway, what was I? But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, conspiracy theories don't hurt anybody. Generally speaking, 9/11 was an inside job. Steel with, you can't melt steel beams with airline or airplane fuel. That doesn't hurt anybody. Um, that doesn't hurt anybody at all. But when you start saying like this specific government agent, da 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 da, and you start like naming names and individuals, now that specifically hurts people, and those people can have a claim on you. I presume. I think that's how it works. Like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's how that works. And if you name specific individuals, they can come after you, and rightfully so. On a personal level, they can come after you. You're impugning my integrity directly as a human being, as a personally. Yeah, I can personally sue you. Um, but the federal government can't sue you. You can't, the FEC or the TTB or whomever, they can't sue you because they're kind of prohibited. But I think that's kind of where conspiracy. We faked the moon landing. That's a stupid conspiracy theory that doesn't actually hurt anybody. So what are they going to do? Who's gonna sue you for saying that we faked the moon landing? We didn't fake the moon landing, by the way. We actually went to the moon. That's nonsensical bullshit. Um, who's gonna come after you by saying that the government is hiding the secrets of the flat Earth behind a giant wall of ice? No, nobody can come after you for that because one, it's just dumb. Like no sane person believes that bullshit. And two, who's gonna sue you? Is the administrator of the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration going to be like, oh, he's talking about me. I'm going to go sue. Like that dude probably doesn't pay any attention to this shit. But I guarantee if somebody does harm to somebody, and they can say, okay, well, that's the guy who did harm to me, and he was inspired by that guy, so I'm going to sue that guy in his dumb radio show or whatever. That's perfectly reasonable. And I think that we're going to see probably going to see a very major case about something along those lines, probably in the next couple of months. We'll see. I'm not sure. Uh, Again, not a future soothsayer. I'm not a what are they called? Fortune teller. But you know, I mean, I can see which direction the sun rises and the sun sets. What's next? Do we need free speech in society? I think we do. Yes, because free speech is freedom of expression. Free speech is freedom of expression. Those things are inseparable. They go together. And if you're going to be a dynamic society and an ideas-based society and an innovative society, you need that sort of thing. You need free speech. You need free expression. You need to be able to. Uh, it's not, but it's not a mechanical function. It's the way you're raised and the way you're wired to be able to look at problems and consider things in a different way. Um, you Free people aren't born; they're raised. Um, and that is it's not just a mechanical thing. It's a function of society and a function of how we do things. Uh, and you can beat that out of somebody. You can take it away from them. You can take it away from them. You can put them into prison. You can take away their ability to solve problems, see solutions, do things in unique ways. I mean, look at China, look at Taiwan, and Taiwan's gone the other direction. Taiwan's gone from authoritarian, totalitarian control of a society to an open and free society. South Korea's done the same thing. Two great success stories and transitioning from an authoritarian society to a free society and a very innovative society. Japan has done that to a large extent. They're not nearly as innovative and open as we are here in the States, but they are far more innovative and open than they were, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. Um, and China's gone the other direction. They're taking away more and more ability for people to think freely and do freely. And my dog is chasing a cat in the other but they're taking away that ability for people to freely associate and freely, because it's not just associating with other people, it's associating objects and things together in ways that you've never thought about it. And it's not, like I said, it's not just a mechanical thing, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of organizing the world, it's a way of seeing things. We see things in an entirely different way than our grandparents saw things, because our grandparents saw things, or my grandparents saw things in a very segregated world. We see things in a very different way. Um, and one of the a story I like to tell is when we left Houston for a cross country trip heading north into South Dakota and Wyoming. The further north we went, the more and more and more, not just the landscape, geographical landscape change, but the demographic landscape continued to change the further and further north we went. And one of the things that we noticed after the first couple of days of being on the road, the further north we went, the less and less the country started looking like Houston. Not just, like I said, geographically, but also demographically. And, a couple of days into the trip, we're going through, I think we were going through Colorado towards Nebraska on the west side of Nebraska. And we stop in at some little place to eat, and I'm looking around going, looking around to the place. I'm like, honey, look around you. You see something weird? And we looked around, and she looked around, and she said, you know what? Come to think of it, yeah. So everybody in the restaurant was white. And you don't think about this in Houston. We don't think about it because, everywhere this is one of the most diverse cities in the country. Everywhere you go, everywhere you go, everything you do, you're in a group of people that don't necessarily all look the same. You're not walking around in the cast of Friends all the time here in Houston. We have people from all over the country here, or all over the world here in Houston. It is a very diverse population, and pretty much anytime you step in an elevator, you're stepping in an elevator with people that don't 100% look like you. But we were in this restaurant. I want to say it was a northeast or southwest part of Nebraska, southwest part of Nebraska, northeast part of Colorado, and we're looking around like, this looks weird. Because it just looked weird. It was like everybody was just pale. but but my grandparents, that wouldn't have been weird to them because everywhere they went was completely whitewashed. Everywhere they went, everything they did in their part of town, and where they went, the town elders, the town managers, the people who ran the city did everything they could to make sure that people that didn't look like them weren't allowed in the area where the people that did look like them operated and did stuff. Everybody else was pushed to the outskirts and pushed away. But in the world we live in today, they don't make that concerted effort to do that. So, you end up in a place like Houston where it's like, a giant melting pot of people all around you. Um, we don't look at the world the same way. We look at the world entirely differently because of that, and that's part of that growing free association and reinterpreting it as long as you can. But in places like, for example, China, in places like Russia and China, they don't do that. They look at the world vastly different than we look at it, and they don't look at the world in a way you can tell them what to do. Everybody that I know who has done engineering projects or worked with teams of people over in China, they'll tell you that they don't come up with solutions. They can solve the engineering problem if you present it to them, but if they're just they don't come up with new ideas. They don't come up with new ideas. They just execute the plans you give to them. And when you're working with other engineers, they can help you. They can help solve the problem when you're working with them, but just left to their own. And that's not universal. That's not all. There's whatever, a billion people in China. They're not all the same. But that's just like part of what they do is they're it's not as dynamic an economy. It's not as dynamic a environment of of innovation. Not the same way. It's different. It's not the same way it is here. Um, and I don't have the words to express what it is that I'm trying to say, but it's just not as open to uh, it's not as open to uh, finding new paths and new solutions. Doing things differently is not what they do. The nail that sticks up gets hammered down. Here, the nail that sticks up gets celebrated, and you figure out ways to get the other nails to stick up so that they all match. Um, it's examined and considered and thought over, and like, maybe this is the right way to do it. That's what we do. That's not what they do, and that's part and parcel of free association and free speech, because free association and free speech and free expression all comes together. It's all baked into a pie. You can't take the sugar out of a cake. It's all part of the cake. At least in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I'm not. um, we don't have a free press in the USA. I don't think that's true. I think we. I I think there's fewer outlets, and I think that's an accurate statement that there are fewer outlets in the United States, but there definitely um, there's nothing prohibiting people from starting a newspaper, starting a newsletter, starting a blog, starting a weekly update show, or there's nothing prohibiting people from doing that. Um, Granted, your speech is still filtered through sites like YouTube or whatever, but community standards rarely. A community standard is not going to shut you down for reporting real facts and reality and things that are happening. A community standard will shut you down for spreading nonsense and bullshit. Um, so there's no prohibition for starting a news delivery. I mean, the biggest prohibition is that it costs money to pay reporters, real journalists. Um, and citizen journalism is not journalism for the most part. Spreading rumors and news and rumors of news and spreading things like there is such a just turning on your camera and recording an event is not the same thing as reporting a story. Um, it's not the same. It isn't. There's differences. There's a difference between journalism and just saying, well, my sister heard from her hairdresser that she saw a video on TikTok that said that that's not news. That's rumor mongering. And yeah, I don't think there's any as far as mass media goes. It's very corporate. You got to make money, but I don't think that we don't have a free press in the U.S. I think we still do. So hate speech that leads to violence is, well, see, in that case, the violence is the crime. The violence is the actual crime that happens. Now, the problem is when you engage in hate speech and incite the other person to punch you in the face. It's the other person who's committed the crime, but you're the one who's incited them to take the swing. And I always tell my kids, like, you didn't have to hit him. You chose to hit him. You chose to do that. And well, was there going to be no consequences? Well, you don't get to see the consequences all the time, but the consequence doesn't have to be you punching the dude in the face. I'm proud of you for doing it, but you shouldn't have done it at the same time. So yeah, a lot of times it does. A lot of times it's the second person the first person throws the verbal punch, the second person throws the physical punch, and the second person is the one who gets in trouble. Um, that's how it goes. And I would love to see some enterprising legislator come up with a way to protect the person who was reacting to, but you can turn it around and flip it upside down where a guy stands in the corner and he says black people shouldn't be allowed to go to public school with my white kids, and he gets punched in the face. Okay, perfectly reasonable response to some racists saying that black kids shouldn't be allowed to go to school with white kids. Fine. Okay, so then the civil rights guy stands on the corner and he says, you know what? Cops should be arrested anytime they discharge their gun and shoot a civilian, they should be arrested and put in jail pending. They should be put in jail pending the investigation. And that guy gets punched. He incited me to punch him. I mean, we don't see it as the same, but the person throwing the punch could see those as equivalent. Could say, that made me mad. My brother was a cop and he got thrown in jail, and in his first night in jail, he got stabbed by an inmate, and blah 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 blah. It could have incited that guy. You can talk, you can see how it goes. It can go. It can be used and misused. And I don't want to be one of those people that says, well, we shouldn't pass any laws that might be misused, but equal protection under the law is a thing that's in our Constitution. We don't get to say free speech, but not equal protection. You got to have equal protection as well as free speech, which means even speech that we don't like is protected under free speech because that is equally protected. Now we could of course, I don't know. There are ways for enterprising legislators to consider this and think it through, but only if the government gives a shit about it. And as it stands right now, there's one party that really doesn't give a shit about that. So, yeah, Lisa knows more about the law than I do, obviously, because she's a lawyer, but that's not really her specialty in the law. She could speak more about the law in general than I could, simply because she knows more law stuff. But yeah, she's been super duper swamped with actual work stuff in the last 3 weeks. So she may even be back tomorrow night for trivia. I don't know. I can't tell you for sure yet. A survey from the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education found that a majority of Americans, 57%, recognize that the First Amendment protects hate speech from governmental regulation, punishment, and censorship, but 45% think that it should not be protected. Very interesting. Interesting survey. I'm surprised. I really am surprised that it's that high. And I'm also really surprised that it's not the same question, right? Okay, those are two different questions, right? Gotcha. So it's two different questions. Does the First Amendment protect hate speech? Should it be protected? Those are two different questions. So 45% think it should be protected. So 55% think it should be protected. 57% recognize that it does protect it. So yeah, 57% recognize that it does protect it, and 55% think that it should also be protected. Because 55 minus 45 or 55 plus 45 is 100. So that, yeah, according to what you typed, about the same number of people who recognize the First Amendment protects hate speech also recognize that think that it should be protected. Does the First Amendment protect hate speech? Yeah, it does. Should it be protected? Yeah, probably so. Because, if you think about it conceptually, what we consider hate speech today was the norm 60 years ago. It wasn't considered hate speech 60 years ago. Certain slurs that we use today weren't considered slurs even as recently as 30 years ago, weren't considered slurs. They were just words we use to describe people. I mean, Jesus, when I was a kid saying, God, that's retarded, we would just, you know, we would say that about all kinds of stuff. Like, oh, Jesus, what are they? They're painting that building pink? Oh, that's retarded. Pink buildings can't be retarded. That's not a thing unless it's fire retardant. Then it can be retardant, or it can be retardant, not retarded. Um, that's gay. Tom Segura has a whole segment over a comedy bit about being when we were kids. We go, "Oh, that's gay." Um, um, uh, uh, I mean, Jesus, Dave Chappelle did his little bit on Saturday Night Live a couple weeks ago, where as a comedian in Hollywood, you can't say two words together as the and Jews. Um, what other one? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that we consider hate speech now, but uh, 4 or 5 decades ago, as recently as 3 decades ago, realistically, goddamn, the '50s was 70 years ago, and that was just normal. It was just speech, and uh, those over time these standards change, and we find speech to be despicable today that wouldn't have been we wouldn't have even batted an eye back then in the '60s or '50s. Wouldn't have even thought about it. But that's how standards change, and that's how communities change. And in the '60s, suggesting that black kids and white kids should drink out of the same water fountain would have been considered hate speech. That I mean, you're gonna let those little dark kids swim in the same swimming pool as my children? I don't think that's how we're gonna do things anymore around these parts. That you're gonna have to take yourself back onto where you came from, child. That's how, and you could get yourself murdered talking shit like that in certain parts of the South. Hell, in certain parts of the North, you get yourself murdered talking shit like that. In the '50s and '60s. Jesus Christ, you had the audacity to put on your uniform and make eye contact when you came home from World War II. If you were a black guy, you could get lynched. And that was just part of life in America for a good solid couple of decades after World War II. Um, and to think that saying something like that would have been considered hate speech today, but back then, I think there was a certain class of people that would have considered it to be hate speech, probably, possibly, maybe not probably, but certainly possibly. We can't let these people come around here causing all this trouble, causing all these problems, putting ideas in people's heads. No, 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 we can't do that. We gotta do something about it. We gotta quiet these people up and put them in jail. We gotta teach them a lesson. Teach them a lesson. That's what they would usually do. Um, but yeah, there you go. The First Amendment makes no general exception for offense, repugnant, or hateful expression. That is true. Speech by adults as free citizens uh, does not lose First Amendment protection because it is considered hateful. Now, harmful, on the other hand, is not considered protected First Amendment speech. Harmful speech is absolutely considered to be not protected. For example, yelling fire in a crowded room is not considered to be free speech. It is not protected speech. Libel, slander, um, there you go. Incitement to imminent lawless action. Espionage is another one that's not protected. Repeating, stating national secrets is not protected. Um, what do you got written here? Incitement to imminent lawless action. Um, unless you're in the FBI and you're trying to trap people into buying weapons for a terrorist attack. Incitement to imminent lawless action. Speech that threatens seriously bodily harm. Speech that causes immediate breach of the peace. Fighting words. All of these things can be considered hate speech. You know. If we have free speech and freedom of expression in the USA, why isn't it considered unconstitutional to burn books in our country? Uh, well, because burning books is also free expression and free speech, just like burning the flag is free expression and free speech. Um, you know, now if you take my book and burn my book, if you come in here and take books off my shelf and burn my books, now you're damaging my property. That's that's something I can come after you for. But if I burn my books, I'm perfectly allowed to do that. You're the author of that book. You can't stop me from burning that book. I choose to burn it. It's free expression. I can burn that book if I damn well please. You're not the boss of me. You just wrote a book. I paid for that book. I bought that book. I can do whatever I want with it. I can cut a hollow out of the inside of it and put a flask in there if I want. I could conceivably. um, Now, if the government decides to start burning books, now that's a whole nother level of question. That's a whole nother level of consideration. If the government goes and starts pulling books off shelves and throwing them in piles and burning them, now we probably have an actionable offense. But if the government is burning books, who's standing around that burning pile of books with their guns pointed at the crowd that's getting a little bit angry about the books burning? Probably federal officers with large guns and very stern looks on their face. So, best not to let things get to that point. Best to use your freedom of expression and freedom of association and freedom of speech to vote at the ballot box and make sure that it doesn't come to that. So, yeah. Bill of Rights only applies to what the taco syndicate jumping in only applies to what the government is supposed to mess with. Right. Burning books is considered free speech. Individual does it, not the government. Right. As long as you're burning your own books, nothing about that. Nothing, no one's stopping you from burning your own books. You can burn your own books all day long. In fact, one of our New Year's traditions is to take a calendar of the year that has just passed and burn it. Because, if you want a specific month to choose on your own, you can burn that month yourself. And friends of ours would oftentimes take would build an effigy and name it for the year, and then burn the year in effigy as a celebration of the end of the year. That is I love that tradition. I absolutely love it. You have a cloth corpse laying in the middle of the street and light it on fire. Chicago federal judge ruled that a lawsuit against Inventure Foods, could move forward after a woman claimed the company's misbranded its TGI Fridays mozzarella bread, which do not include mozzarella. Interesting. Despite the label, the product does not contain mozzarella cheese. Rather, it contains cheddar cheese. So it was cheddar cheese sticks called mozzarella sticks? Huh. The lawsuit, which filed in U.S. District Court in the Northern District of Illinois, reads according to today. That is false advertising, at the very least. I mean, if you're selling mozzarella sticks that don't contain mozzarella, that's certainly misbranding. Although, Pepsi ran a commercial in the 1990s. I don't know if y'all know about this. There's a documentary on Netflix right now. But I was alive, and I remember this in the 1990s when you could get Pepsi points and turn them in for Pepsi products, Pepsi branded products. Like a CD player or a leather jacket or bag, a travel bag, a gym bag type of thing with Pepsi logos on it. You get free Pepsi. You could get shirts, jackets, lawn chair, beach umbrellas, all kinds of stuff that you could get with backpacks with the Pepsi logos on them, all kinds of stuff. They had a whole catalog, and in the commercial, they had a Harrier jet landing and said 7 million Pepsi points for the Harrier jet, and this kid uh, was figured out a plan to collect the Pepsi points for the Harrier jet, and then saw in the fine print that it would be 10 cents. You could also purchase Pepsi points for 10 cents, which meant the Harrier jet was going to cost $700,000 if he wanted to buy the Harrier jet. So he had like 15 Pepsi points, wrote a check for, or plus shipping, it would be like $10 extra. So wrote a check for $700,008.65 or something like that, and sent it to Pepsi. And there was a whole lawsuit thing. Pepsi sued the kid. The kid countersued Pepsi, false advertising, breach of contract, all this other shit. Pepsi ended up winning, where the judge said no reasonable person would expect a Harrier jet to cost only 7,000 Pepsi points, only 700 or 7 million Pepsi points, only $700,000. No reasonable person would expect that. So the judge threw it out. Which is also to say that freedom of expression also includes the freedom to sue for false advertising or false claims. This woman suing up in Chicago, that is perfectly within her rights. Anybody can sue anybody for anything, anytime, anywhere, but that doesn't mean you win or you have an actionable case. Because a woman, now, I mean, that might be I don't know if that's a reasonable case or not, because whatever foods, Inventure Foods could simply be saying it's a mozzarella snack stick. It doesn't have, it's just branding. It's a mozzarella branded. Although, I mean, I don't know. Judges and juries can do all kinds of dumb shit. Maybe they'll pay her off for, $100,000 and tell her to fuck off, and some sealed settlement or something like that. But the label says product doesn't contain mozzarella cheese. Maybe that indemnifies them. I don't know. But anybody can sue anybody for anything, anytime, anywhere in the United States. That's part of your freedom of speech. That's part of your access to the courts. That's part of your rights as an American citizen. You can do stupid shit. I'd be surprised if this actually came to anything. It sounds like a joke, to be quite honest. It sounds like she was drinking wine with a lawyer one afternoon, and she said, there's no mozzarella in these cheese sticks. And the lawyer's like, we should fucking sue him and see if we can get some money out of him. I'd do it. It doesn't cost you anything to sue. Court costs maybe a couple $100. If you're the lawyer, it doesn't cost you anything. You can just sue them and see what happens. Maybe you get a letter back from them, and they counter. They put in a counterclaim, request for dismissal, and the judge looks at it and goes, "This is stupid," and throws it out. Then all you're out is your time. But maybe the company looks at it and goes, "We don't want to fuck with this. Offer them $5,000, just shut up and go away." Maybe you get $5,000 out of it. Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. Why do Americans think Democrats are the worst? I have no idea. I don't even know if that's entirely true. Might be. I don't know. There are a lot of citizen journalists on YouTube that are excellent. Well, there are a lot of citizen journalists on YouTube. I don't know if I would go so far as to say that they are excellent. There's some that are definitely better than others. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of citizen journalists. There's a lot of citizen commentators. I don't know if there's a lot of citizen journalists, because the inability of a journalist presenting a narrative, a story, is one thing, but when you're presenting explicitly presenting an opinion, and journalists are all opinionated. We don't want to say that they're not. We don't want to see news that's neutral. We don't want to see somebody coming on the news and saying, well, it was just two people who were equal social standing fighting against each other. One was a Nazi and one was not, but we don't know who's in the wrong. I mean, you want the news reporter to come out and say, look, this fucking Nazi just got his ass kicked and it was awesome. You want them to come out and say stuff like that because you don't want the news normalizing abhorrent behavior. You don't want the news saying, both sides were in the wrong. These were the Nazis that were coming out to beat protesters who were opposed to the Civil War monument, and then there were the protesters who were opposed to the Civil War monument who were out there presenting targets to these neo Nazis who were just coming out and obliging them by beating them to bloody pulps. You don't want this whataboutism and equivocation of two things that aren't equal. You want the news to reflect. You don't want the news to reflect the government's narrative necessarily, but you certainly want the news to reflect the narrative of the community in which it's being presented. And I'm thinking as I say that, I'm thinking about what did news in the 1950s look like when there was a lynching? What did news from the 40s look like when their townspeople came out to give this lowly Negro what was coming to him because he looked over at all white women and whistled, and yep, that was inappropriate, and he got himself hung up by the tree. You can go see the body from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock tomorrow before we cut it down and burn it. Fucking Southern fucking lynching racist piece of shit. Yeah, but I reckon you probably want the news to still reflect the sentiments because at least even then it's an honest reflection of society and it's not hidden, and even the surrounding communities, the larger communities and surrounding communities will see that and be able to say, look, that ain't right. Let's shame them into the shadows. Let's go. Come on, everybody. Let's get on the bus and go down to uh, fucking, I don't know, Lynchburg, Alabama, wherever they do the lynchings. Uh, Lufkin, Texas. Go to Lubbock or Amarillo or any of the scores of communities that would have a hanging tree out by the front, the courtyard, the courthouse in the center of town. Any town that had a lynching square. Let's get the buses. Come on, guys. Let's load up. Let's load up and show them what you want. That you want those communities to say out loud for everybody around to see who they are and what they are, so that everybody around can look at them and say that is acceptable or that is unacceptable. You want them to say that. You want to hear it. You want to hear horrible people say their horrible things so you know who they are. I mean, there was a time and place where we just ignored it and pushed it into the shadows and acted like it didn't exist. But now, in the world we live in now, all those goblins from the shadows have come right back out, and they've replaced their white hoods with red hats, and they're marching around with their goddamn tiki torches. And it's at least good to know who they are, so you can look at them and go, that's unacceptable. You're not welcome in my home. But there's also the reality that if you do a thing enough times, if you practice a behavior enough times, then that behavior becomes not a practiced behavior, but your second nature, and you just do it. It goes from being a thing you do to just habit that is done unconsciously. And I think that goes with virtuous behaviors as well as non-virtuous behaviors. And for 40 years we practiced virtuous behaviors, and then poof, we let the virtuous behaviors we let the non-virtuous behaviors back out from under the bridge, and ooh baby, a whole bunch of people stomping around going, yeah, I don't want to be politically correct anymore, I just want to be able to say the N-word. They're like, okay, well fucking say it. I don't want to say it right now. Well then shut up, just fucking quit being a bitch. We've lived in a weird time the last 5 years. The last 5 years has been a weird time to live in. Like time travel weird. Ugh. Anywho. Yeah, not be protected. 45% said it should not be protected. That is what the second comment said. Yeah, 45% not be protected. Um, Trump sues Marr for orangutan sex joke. I don't remember that. I don't remember that, but um, I don't remember that. I'm sure I'll look it up later. But um, yeah, citizen journalist, citizen commentator. YouTube is full of citizen commentators. Anybody can be a commentator. I can be a comment. I'm more often than not. I am a commentator. I try not to be. I mean, no, that's bullshit. I do. I try to be. But I at least try to be a thoughtful commentator because there's a whole lot of commentators who aren't thoughtful. I at least try to be thoughtful. Um, word salad all night long. Word salad is a thing we could do all night long. But yeah, um, uh, uh, I at least I try to be thoughtful, and there's a whole lot of people out there who aren't. And I'm not always thoughtful, but I at least try to be. It is 11:30. Um, Let me look over at my analytics and see how long I'm going to run this thing. Because as part of Project 360, I am in search of 360 hours a month, and according to my calculations, according to my page, right now I am at 1,839 watch hours, and according to my calculations, if I was on target for my goal for the end of the month, I would be at 1922, which puts me 83 hours behind. And tomorrow I'll be 94 hours behind because 11 hours a day. So if we get 35 hours tonight and then add another 35 hours tomorrow, then we're caught up or close to caught up. But I mean, I'm not going to get 85 hours today. That's not going to happen. I might get 35 hours tomorrow though. If I get off my ass and I do what I need to do and get the show posted early enough to have some engagement. Maybe I'll record a new trailer for my trivia show. Maybe we'll see. Maybe I'll shave. I don't know. My beard is it's feeling really fluffy down here. This is out. I don't like I like it. Maybe maybe I'll take it down to a goatee. Maybe I'll do that. Shave down to a goatee. Can I do that? Maybe I'll color it. Shave it down to a goatee and then color it dark. Just brown, nice dark brown. What do you think? I'll put out a poll. Like, should I shave? Maybe I'll do it on the air. Maybe I'll shave on the air. Maybe that's what we'll do. We'll get 50 views. I shave on the air. I'll go get my razor. I'll just do it right here. I'll put a little doily right here under my chin. Just go zoop, zoop. That's it. Because this makes me look like I have a big, thick, like my jaw just like my, but it doesn't. It like tapers down. I like my beard though. It keeps me warm in the wintertime. That 1 week of wintertime that we get here in Houston. Today, or like right now, the temperature right now outside my house, you people up north, you don't understand how refreshing this is. But right now, the temperature outside my window is 51 degrees, and it is glorious. It is glorious because all week it has been in the 70s and 80s, and it has been just dreadful. But tomorrow we're going to have a low of 42, a high of 64. Friday, we're going to have a low of 40, a high of 64. Saturday, be 30. We'll be in the 30s, 39 and 36 on Sunday. This is insane. Next Friday, a week from tomorrow, because it's technically Thursday in my mind right now, a week from tomorrow, it'll be 32 for a low. We're going to get all the way down to freezing. I can't. This is wintertime. Finally, we finally have wintertime in Texas. And I know you ding dongs up north, you're like, oh, that's not anything. It's been snowing since October here. Well, I mean, fuck you for living in a place where it snows 3, 6, 8 months out of the year. We live in a place where it's 120 degrees for 2 months out of the year. You don't understand how hot it can get. Y'all get hot when it's 85 degrees. When it's 85 degrees down here, we're putting on a long sleeve shirt. Because it's 85 degrees. Like, we don't want to get sunburned. We're going to go outside and be beautiful because it's beautiful outside. So we're going to put on a little windbreaker, a long sleeve shirt. Not because it's cold, just because we don't want to get burned. Um, but you people, you're up there like, oh, my face hurts when I go get the mail because it's so cold. Well, that's on you. That's you. That was your choice to live in the tundra lands up there, where it's uh, you can only go outside for 3 months out of the year. Yeah. It's in the highs in the 50s in December or November or whatever. But when it starts snowing and it's frozen over and you're walking through glaciers. I'm sorry, it was 58 degrees when I woke up in August in Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin. 58 degrees. God. 58 degrees in the morning in August. Man, we wake up in the morning in August and it is 75 degrees. Before the sun comes up, it is 75 degrees in August, and it's going to get 25 degrees hotter, which means it's going to be 100 and it's going to be humid and we're going to be miserable and we're going to be hating life as we just stay inside. Um, that's why the buildings are so big in Houston, because everybody has to be inside of them. We got 5 million people in the Metroplex here in Houston, and they all go inside buildings in the summertime. You don't see them outside because it's oppressive. Oh, it's so bad. We have tunnels in downtown Houston so that people can walk from one building to the next without going outside in the summer. Y'all got tunnels in Chicago for the wintertime so that people don't have to go outside and transfer coal from building to building in the wintertime. Here in Houston, it's so that we can just walk from one building to the other without going on the pavement. Air conditioned underground tunnels. It's glorious. It really is. It is absolutely glorious. You go downtown Houston in the summertime at lunchtime and you look around and it is a ghost town. You cannot see people in downtown Houston. They're either in their cars or they're nowhere to be found because they are underground, like moles. Mole people just going underground, avoiding the heat. Oh, I love my city. I absolutely love my city. Absolutely. Um, so it is, what is it, 11:38. If y'all don't have any more questions, if y'all don't have anything else to chat about, I ain't got anything else to do. I don't know what to tell you. Um, I'm looking something up real quick. Quarter. Uh, Bank of Oklahoma headquarters, Houston, Texas. Hmm. Houston. Huh. The Cannon. No, that's not telling me anything I want to know. Anyway, I'm looking up something over here because I got a minute and I had an idea pop into my head and I wanted to look it up, but I can't find it. So, there you go. Moral of the story, long story short, free speech is good. Restricting speech is bad. It's really hard to jump on that slippery slope because, both sides can see the other side in a two-sided conflict. Each side can see the uh, speech of the other as inflammatory, instigative, Is instigative a word? I think I've had one too many. Instigative. Yeah, instigative. 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 It's an adjective. Arousing the actions, or is there a way to pronounce this? How do you pronounce this? Instigative. In Where is the pronunciation guide? Usage examples, word family, test prep, PSAT, TOEFL, ACT, ACT, not ACT. They don't have, okay. Instigative, that's the word, instigative. Um, so Instigative. Instigative. Um, what was I saying when I went down that little tangent there? Um, either side in a conflict could see the other side's words as instigative, inflammatory, provocative, even. Uh, so but you could leave that up to the courts to decide. But the problem with precedents and the problem with court decisions is that they can say that these words are provocative and instigative, but then 5 years later it could be different words, and 5 years later it could be different words, and 5 years later it could be different words, and because society changes all the time, um, and in certain contexts, what they say is instigative, and what in other contexts what they say isn't, and it could be the same damn thing. Like saying fire in a crowded room versus fire in my own office versus fire at the shooting range versus fire at a barbecue. The word can be the same word, but it can mean something different, and it's not always. And maybe you leave that to the jury to decide. Maybe you leave that to a judge to decide. But more importantly, I think your free speech stops where my fist begins. That's that also works too, because that is the definition of community standards. And I say that kind of flippantly. I don't generally advocate violence generally. Um, and there's certain circumstances where I think violence is absolutely the solution to the problem. People say that violence doesn't solve problems. I disagree. Violence solves a lot of problems sometimes. I mean, we fought entire wars over whether or not violence solves problems or not. And the generally speaking, is this a true statement? Generally speaking, the wars that were fought solved the problems that they were intended to solve. I think that's a true statement. Generally speaking, the wars that have been fought have solved the problems that they were intended to solve. They may have created a whole other set of problems. They may not have solved the problems to our satisfaction, and they may have created entirely new problems that needed to be solved. But generally speaking, the problems they were intended to solve, they solved. Generally speaking. And we're talking about modern wars going from World War, or just before World War One, say Spanish American War forward. Probably, and from the American point of view, not necessarily from other points of view. Spanish American War, the U.S. Mexican War, going a little bit further back, maybe the Indian Wars, Civil War. The Mexican War predated the Civil War, though. Yeah, I think generally speaking, I think that's a fairly true statement that wars were fought in order to solve a specific problem, and generally speaking, the problem they were intended to solve was solved by the war that was fought. So yeah, it's safe to say that we've had entire wars. We've fought entire wars over the question of whether or not violence solves a problem, and generally speaking, it's been true. Does that mean it's the best way to solve a problem? Probably not. Probably not. Does that mean it's a solution to every problem? Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because, if you've got a math problem, you're not going to punch the paper into submission. That would be dumb. Violence is not going to solve your math problem, you dumb moron. Although violence may solve the problem of me calling you a dumb moron. I mean, that you see how these things work? There's a whole scope and range of solutions that can be solved, but not all the problems can be solved with violence. But let's call it a night. We got the last 15 minutes here. Let's call it a night. Things we can look forward to in the next, what is today? The 14th? Today is the 14th. So things we can look forward to over the next 6 weeks. Tomorrow we have trivia. Friday, I want to say Friday, I'm going to go ahead and have a panel show. We'll do a panel show. I'll do something live from the distillery. I'll probably start around 6 p.m. and we'll go to midnight or Bacon has his show from 10 to midnight. Do I want to do a panel show at the same time Bacon's doing his show? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a show, then I'll end my show and go over to Bacon's show for a couple hours and then bail. Maybe I'll do that Friday. Then next week is the week before Christmas. Or the week of Christmas? It's the week of Christmas, isn't it? I don't think I'm going to do anything next week because Christmas is Saturday and Sunday. I don't think I'm going to do anything next week. We might do a panel show on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday. We might do something, but I don't have a show planned for Wednesday next week. I might do a show Wednesday next week. I might do a show on Wednesday next week. So let's put Wednesday as a hard maybe. Was one DLD. I don't know what that means, JLM. You gotta give some more info on that. So I might do a show Wednesday. I might not do a show at all Friday. I might go ahead and do the show on Sunday. I might do the show Wednesday. I'm not doing a show Thursday. Not doing a show Friday. Christmas is the weekend. Enjoy your Christmas. Merry Christmas. And then we'll be back. And then I've got my New Year's Spectacular on the 31st. We will be launching off 1,300 rockets. 1,200 for sure. Possibly 1,300 rockets for New Year's. So, the connection will look worse than the error. Was one DLD? What? I don't know what you're talking about there. I really don't. I'm trying to piece it together in my brain. I don't know what DLD is. So yeah, we're going to be launching off hopefully 1,300 rockets. Right now, we are sitting at 1,280. Let's see if we can pull up the counter. Where's my counters? Here it is. Boop. Boom. 1,280, I want to say 3 is the actual number. What is my sub count? 83, I think. 82. We're 1,282. And according to my analytics page, my views as of yesterday, lifetime, were 481,000, which is about 20,000 ahead of what my about page says. So we will be at 491,000 views by the end of the day today, the beginning of the day tomorrow, which puts me well on track for blowing through the 500,000 by the end of the month, which is just beyond imagination. I had no idea never even fathomed that we would be coming that close. So the next thing is to figure out how the fuck I can get 360 hours a month. Jesus. But I don't think the goddamn Bacon is here, but I believe if you say his name 3 times, he's like Beetlejuice and he just arrives. Like goddamn Bacon, goddamn Bacon, goddamn Bacon. And then you look in the mirror and there he is. He's just standing there with his weird mustache. Show it. Come on. Sub to Dickmars 1298. He's a homeless homie. Oops, just dropped my phone. Okay, so that's the plan for the next 2 weeks. I don't have any shows planned well, that's a lie. I'm probably going to do Wednesday night next week. Thursday tomorrow, Sunday, Wednesday next week, then Christmas, then probably Wednesday the 28th, possibly Thursday the 29th, and then our July 31st or June 31st, God damn it, New Year's Eve spectacular, where we launch off 1,300 rockets as a celebration of our sub count, hopefully crossing 1,300 by that day. I only need to get 15 extra subs by the end of the month. I'm pretty sure I could pull that off. I'm adding like 2 or 3 a day, so we'll see. Hopefully having crossed the 500,000 views mark And then possibly on New Year's Day, having the announcement of the details of our 72-hour live stream fest sometime in January, which should include bottling up of our Boomtown Bourbon, which would be fucking exciting. Barreling up a batch, bottling up a batch, labeling up, doing all the stuff we need to do on our bourbon, kind of spreading that out, getting things going on the bourbon. Then having some musical guests, having a couple of podcasts record while we're there. Let's see here, doing a bottling run, barreling run, labeling run, podcast, musical guest, science guest, another science guest, another musical guest, a couple of comedians, having a couple of comedians come and join the party. A couple of burlesque performers, a couple of sideshow performers, a famous Hollywood actress from New York City, a famous gamer from YouTube with over 1 million subs, and also a famous who was the other guy? If I can confirm all these people for January, this would be a hell of a damn show. A cosplayer from Chicago. So hopefully I can confirm these people and I can get them in on the show and have them like slotted in various things. That should be a solid 48 hours, and then all I need to do at that point is add another 24. If I can pull, the hard thing is going to be figuring out how to stay awake for 72 hours without like taking naps. Because I can stay awake for 3, 4, 5 days if I can like take a 30, 40 minute nap here and there. But it's tough to take a 30 or 40 minute nap when you're live streaming from your distillery. So, but yeah, having a couple of they're all fantastic guests. They're all brilliant, fantastic guests and fun people to hang with and fun conversation to have. So that shouldn't be the hard thing. Didn't work over at DLD's. Oh, okay. Sunflowers because of Twitter. Sunflowers, what? All right. Have you paid any attention to Twitter files? I've paid a little bit of attention to the Twitter files, but it's a bunch of nothing nonsense. It's like Twitter saying, we have to enforce our standards. We have to have standards. We're going to go enforce our standards. It's like big fucking deal. Literally Twitter could and did do whatever they wanted to do. There's no nothing. There's no anything there. It's like the president. It's like President Bush outing one of his CIA agents, and then declassifying it after he outs them. The president can fucking do whatever he wants to do. For the most part, the president can do whatever the fuck he wants to do. And they can do that shit. They can out their own CIA agents and then say, "Oh no, I've decided to declassify that CIA agent," which is definitely something George Bush did. George Bush and Dick Cheney both did that. They outed a CIA agent. What's her face? The yellow cake uranium chick from was it Nigeria or whatever it was? They outed their own agent. And if Twitter wants to change their policies or go against their policies or redo their policies or whatever the fuck they want to do, they can do it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. I've never been on Twitter. Horn Pub seems more wholesome. Jesus. If you're in a hurry, look up. What? No, I'm not gonna look that up. W, the elder, the younger Bush, the living Bush. The Twitter files are nothing. what I've read about them is that they're it's nothing. And if Twitter wants to suppress tweets or ban people or block people, Twitter can fucking ban people and block people. There is no free speech on social media platforms. There is no, if you are walking into a private entity, if you're walking into someone's home, if you're walking into a theater, if you're walking into a baseball stadium or a football stadium or a movie theater or a public performance theater or whatever, if you're walking into private, if you're walking onto private property, you do not have free speech. You have to conform to the standards established by that entity. You have to. You think you can walk into uh, you think you can walk into Coca-Cola headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia, wearing Pepsi gear? I mean, you probably can, but they're probably going to harass you a little bit, and it's well within their rights to do it. They can harass you if they want to. They can tell you, you got to take that jacket off. They can then give you shit. They could probably even kick you off the premises if they want to. They're probably not gonna, because Coke doesn't really care about what Pepsi does. They don't care. But you're probably going to catch some shit, and you rightfully should, because you're being a dick. You're wearing Pepsi gear into Coca-Cola's property. But at the same time, if Pepsi wants to stage fake taste tests between Pepsi and Coke, they can do that too. They're well within their rights to do that. Um, you do not have free speech on private property. You have free speech on public property, in so much as the government can't stop you from saying things on public property, but you do not have free speech in so much as the surrounding community is well within their rights to shout you down for being a dumbass, because you still have community standards. You do not get to escape community standards unless you live in a community of one. That's how it works. That's reality. That's life. You don't have free speech here in my chat box on my channel. I get to decide what you post here. I'm the final arbiter. I'm the one who gets to decide. You go through a YouTube filter, and then you go through an Old Humble Guy filter. And if you want to come over here and start spouting things that I decide I don't want you to be spouting, I can lip you right off of here. I have a whole list of words that are banned in my chat filter, because I don't want my brand associated with people coming in here doing Nazi shit. I don't want people coming in here doing neo-Nazi shit. I don't want people coming in here doing racist shit. I don't want people coming in here doing, the South will rise again shit. I don't want people doing any of that shit. Fuck you, go away. I mean, I want to sell my whiskey, but I don't need to sell it to that guy. I don't. I mean, I don't need to sell it to every fucking racist in Texas just because, I want to sell. I can sell it to the people who aren't racists in Texas. And if the racists in Texas like whiskey, they can buy my whiskey too. They just keep their fucking mouth shut and drink my whiskey. I'm fine with that. You can be racist and drink my whiskey, but doesn't mean I want to talk to you. I mean, we have community standards. We all have community standards. Even if you're the community and people want to come into your house, you live by yourself. You may be so starved for attention that you're like, I'll take whatever comes along, whatever, fine. Tell me, you're inviting the Mormons in for tea when they come and ask you if you've heard about the Mormon church. You're like, no, I haven't. Come on in. Would you like some lemonade? Have a seat, please. Tell me about your day. You're so starved for human interaction that you're just, the Jehovah's Witnesses come by and you're like, yes, yes. Tell me more about the lighthouse. Sit down. I want to hear more. You go get some snickerdoodles and a pitcher of tea, and you sit down, and you just want to hear another human being talk to you, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, but sometimes you just people aren't so starved for that connection that they don't let just any random strays come in their front door and tell them about whatever. And for the Jehovah's Witnesses out there, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. love your God, whatever. I don't care. Uh, New Coke was a Pepsi. New Coke was a Pepsi copy. I don't know if it was a copy, but it was definitely a betrayal. It was the worst marketing campaign ever. I lived through New Coke. I don't have to look it up. I know what New Coke was. I had it when it first came out. I watched the Bill Cosby commercials where he would drink the Coke, where he actually said, "Oh, it's less sweet and it's good." And then they come out with New Coke that was more sweet, and it was just like a complete and total 180 betrayal of their marketing strategy. It was the absolute, it was a complete, they had to apologize. Coca-Cola apologized for New Coke. When was the last time you remember a company apologizing for their new product that they released? It was an unmitigated disaster for Coca-Cola. An unmitigated disaster. The absolute worst. Cheers, Lazy Nate. Welcome to the party. Glad to have you here. And there were some people who liked it. It was arguably more popular when it was released than the original Coke, the original formula, Coca-Cola Classic, as they used to call it. It was arguably more popular. Arguably, more people liked New Coke than Classic Coke, but they just, the way they rolled it out is they replaced the original formula with the new formula. And you go to the grocery store, and like one day, all the Coke product is replaced with this new Coke. And I mean, it just pissed everybody off. They were like, I just want to keep up with the old Coke because it didn't taste the same. It tasted different. And they bought the new Coke and it tasted different. They didn't like the new Coke. If they would have rolled it out like a normal company and put them side by side on the shelf, because that's what they ended up doing. They ended up coming back with we're gonna release the original formula Coke under the brand Coca-Cola Classic, and we're gonna put it on the shelf, and they'll be side by side, and you can get Coca-Cola Classic if you like Coca-Cola Classic. You can get New Coke if you like New Coke, and Coke Classic became the flagship brand. New Coke was also there. You could get New Coke; it was on the shelf just all the time. People don't know about this, but you could still get New Coke. But now, if you go to the stores and you see Coca-Cola, or as Mitch McConnell calls it, Coca-Cola, if you go to the store and you see Coca-Cola, there's tastes like original Coca-Cola. There's Coca-Cola that tastes like the original. Distinctive brand packaging right there. Coca-Cola tastes like the original, and Coca-Cola. And Coke Zero, I think, and Coke whatever. They got all the other shit that they have. I haven't kept up with Coke. I don't drink Coke like I used to, but they don't call it original formula. They don't call it Coke Classic. It's called Coca-Cola tastes like the original or whatever it is. Oh my God, clear Pepsi. That was a fucking unmitigated disaster too. Jesus Christ. I'm telling you, the cola wars was a weird. The 1980s and 1990s for colas was just a weird, weird, weird time to be alive. Maybe I should do a show about the cola wars, because that was. We don't appreciate it in this day and age. The corporate fighting, the wars that were waged in the 80s and 90s for brands, they don't wage those wars today like they waged back. Like, things have kind of like settled in and ossified. Companies gotten so big and oligarchical because one of the reasons why they've gotten so big and oligarchical is in the 1980s they kind of relaxed the antitrust regulations, and companies got enough cash together by the end of the 80s and early 90s. They just bought every fucking thing over the horizon. So now Procter and Gamble owns everything. Lever owns everything. What is it? Procter and Gamble. What is it, like 8 companies owns 70% of all consumer goods in the United States, and then 2 hedge funds own most of those 8 companies. Something like that. Something like that. Um, I'm definitely going to do a show about that. That would definitely be. And the media market before the end of the 90s used to be a much more diverse market, but then they relaxed the antitrust laws for media companies, and now three companies own 60% of all TV, radio networks in the entire country. Um, it's it's a fucking abomination, is what it is. They enforcing well, it's easy to say that enforcing antitrust laws would go a long ways to revitalizing our consumer economy. But on the other hand, there's distinct benefits to having four banks, six national banks, however many there are, six national banks, eight national corporate brands, or eight companies that own all the national corporate brands. There's distinct benefits from a regulatory point of view. There's a distinct benefit from an economic point of view. There's a distinct benefit from a banking point of view. There's a distinct benefit even from a consumer point of view, because that arguably creates efficiencies in the nationwide market, the nationwide logistics chains. It just drives down prices to the point where, uh, you know, inflation gets to be at 2%. And you don't have to worry about it. But if you have mom and pop shops always competing, and regional chains always competing, and regional brands always competing, um, there's inefficiencies in the supply chain, and then there's arguments to be made on both sides, and that would be a really good show to do as well. I think. I don't know. Maybe that's something to talk about during a live at the distillery. Like the shit that's on my mind and the live stream of consciousness at the distillery. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I do know that it's after midnight, and I was going to shut this down 10 minutes ago. But then JLM pops in, Lazy Nate pops in, and they can throw in all the fucking questions. We could talk some more. So let's do it. Let's keep talking. Let's go another hour. Whatever it was called, it was popular, but that was why it was stopped on. I don't think they ever stopped New Coke. I don't think they ever did. I think they dropped the new, and then you had Coca-Cola Classic and Coca-Cola, because they had Coca-Cola and New Coke, and then Coca-Cola Classic and Coke, and now it's Coca-Cola Original Flavor and Coca-Cola. I don't think they ever. I don't think they ever quit New Coke. I just think they rebranded it like several times. Um, I honestly liked it. What, New Coke? You like New Coke? It was sweeter, more bubbly. Did a lot of Pepsi. Oh, you did a lot of Pepsi challenges. Yeah. Uh, I don't. I don't like blind taste test challenges with random people, and here's why. If they know who you are and where you're coming from, then they try to find the one that they think you think is better. Um, and we did this. I did this with my whiskeys. I had my Boomtown Bourbon and Roughneck Reserve, and the Roughneck Reserve was, I have no problem saying this, an arguably inferior product to my Boomtown Bourbon. Um, Demonstrably inferior, distinctly inferior. And I would do blind tests with our two bourbons side by side, and I knew which one was better. But I would tell them that one's Boomtown Bourbon and one's Roughneck Reserve, and they would take the two, and they go, "I like this one better. That's the Reserve, right?" And I would say, "No, that's the Boomtown Bourbon." And they go, "Oh, well, then the other one's better." And they would change. They would literally change their answer when I tell them which one was the one, because she'd say, or they'd say, "Oh, well, the Reserve, that one's better because it's the Reserve, right?" Like, no, that's not why it's better. It's just a name. The Reserve doesn't mean anything. You realize Reserve doesn't mean anything when you see it in the. Yeah. So, yeah, that was a marketing disaster. But I remember in this documentary, Pepsi, Where's My Plane? Uh, some of the people were definitely trying to find out which one was the Pepsi, because they were paid Pepsi spokespeople from way back in the 80s, and they would drink it and go, I remember this is the one that I liked, and they'd pull it out, and sure enough, it was the Pepsi. They know that they taste different. They know which one tastes like Coke and which one tastes like Pepsi, and they try to find the one that tastes like the thing that they're supposed to like. Um, but also, blind taste tests can be really good when they don't know who you are and what you're offering them, and just want to know what's right. But there came a point in time where man, the Pepsi challenge commercials made you think that everybody liked Pepsi. Every time they drank it, they liked Pepsi. And the Pepsi Challenge commercials were killing Coke because every time they did the Pepsi Challenge, people drank the Pepsi. But what they don't show you is the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times that they did the Pepsi Challenge and people didn't pick the Pepsi. Pick a Pepsi. Um, so, the reality was in the Pepsi Challenge, it was about 50-50. Even it was either 50-50 or slightly in favor of Coca-Cola. I can't remember what the exact numbers were because it's been 40 years since I've even thought about this shit. But you were led to believe that the Pepsi Challenge, because you saw the commercials from Pepsi, and everybody always picked the Pepsi because obviously it's a Pepsi commercial. I mean, they're not going to show you, oh, this guy liked Coke. Oh, poor guy. Every single time it was 100%. You put them side by side, 100% of the time people pick Pepsi. 100%. 100% of the people in America like Pepsi more than Coke. Can you believe that? They do a blind challenge side by side every single time. And, as a 10-year-old kid, I'm looking at it going, God damn, everybody likes Pepsi. Pepsi tastes like shit. I hate Pepsi. We're a Coca-Cola family. We've always been a Coca-Cola family. Soda water is called Coke. It's called Coke for a reason, because it's Coke. And Pepsi's just garbage. I'd like to get a Coke. Will you take Pepsi? Will you take a punch in the dick? No, fuckers. I think only Guinness Extra Stout in a can beats Coca-Cola for fizz. Oh, yeah. Mexican Coke. Mexican Coke uses actual cane sugar. American Coke uses, and by OG you mean like before before corn syrup. Yeah, 100%. Mexican Coke is as close to the old original Coke from way back when it was first packaged and delivered than Coke is today, because Coke is today. Sometime in the last 100 and something years, they replaced the cane sugar with corn syrup, and then um, uh, the Mexican Coke never changed the corn syrup, or to corn syrup rather. I want to show y'all this. This is what I'm using over here as a coaster. Look at this. I have a barrel stave that has a divot cut in it, and it was sent to me by my barrel supplier, Redheaded Barrels, or Redhead Barrels. See, that's their logo and their name right there, Redhead Barrels. I like this little thing. This was sent to me, a little Christmas present. I'm going to, I use it. It's perfect. It fits my rocks glass perfectly. It gives me a nice stable platform. I like that. I like it a lot. I want to get more of those. I don't have barrel staves that are this wide on any of my barrels. My barrels are 5-gallon barrels. They're much smaller barrel staves. But I have many barrel staves. I'm going to see if I can figure out something to do with them. Anyway, Coca-Cola, to clarify. Yeah, those 12-ounce bottles are cheap. Stuff stays cold longer in a glass bottle. Obama updated the law in 2013 also regarding the American people, media, and false propaganda. I was not aware of that. 2013 law, something about false propaganda. Interesting. Smith Modernization Act, if I remember correctly. Okay. Weird thing, I don't know. Let's see here. 2013. 2013 would have been. He was first elected in 2008, right? Yeah, he was first elected in 2008. So 2013 would have been probably Democratic House, Republican Senate, and Democratic president. So it was probably, I don't know who would have written it, but it was probably a fairly well balanced bill. It wasn't, over the top one way or the other. And to be completely fucking honest, I'm surprised that anything passes when there's a split house. I don't expect we're going to any legislation passed in the next 2 years. Unless, oh my God, the rumors that I heard today was that the former guy is going to be making an announcement in the next couple of days, and that announcement is going to be that he is running for Speaker of the House. And holy shit, if there was ever an opportunity to have a minority party win the Speaker of the House, it is now. That is going to be an absolute fucking shit show if he attempts to do that. I am here for. I've got all the popcorn. I'm ready. Let's go. Um, like all free and clear, same type marketing. Uh, yeah, the Pepsi challenge. It was really, really, really close to 50-50, but you didn't hear the other half. You never saw it. Of course you wouldn't see it because it was, Pepsi. Pepsi was doing the commercial. They're never going to show you the people. And what Coke should have done, if Coke was smart, they'd have done the Pepsi challenge too. They'd have done their own commercials of the Pepsi challenge, and they'd have shown like 3/4 of the people picking Coke. They say, "You've seen these. Drink drink them." And they're like, "I picked the Pepsi. Drink the two, dry pink." But what you haven't seen are these. And then they do Coca-Cola, 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 Coke, Coke. So they do show you like 3 people drinking the Pepsi, and then show the next 7 people drinking the Coke. Like, and that would be the appropriate Coca-Cola response. And that's what the fucking beer wars that they've done the last 4 or 5 Super Bowls between Budweiser and Miller Lite, the king of beers. Oh, we don't do kings in America. We're an American beer company, even though they're not an American beer company anymore. Democracy doesn't do kings. That would be, that would have been that would have been a edgy, uh, uh, well balanced, responsive type of commercial. Uh, but I'm sure the powers that be at Coke were like, we don't answer their tits for tats. We're Coca-Cola. We set the brand expectation. We are the market. We set the market. They respond to us. We do what we do. And it was such an arrogant, dumb thing to think that way and talk that way, especially when you're going to come out and say, "Oh, we're going to make new Coke because people like sweet stuff." It's like fucking. It was a very badly run company at the time. They were the biggest, best, most profitable, worldwide distributed beverage company in the entire universe, but they were really badly managed. They were they did not have uh, they did not have good management. They didn't have a good mission. They didn't have a good mission. They didn't have a good voice. They didn't have a good idea of who they were, a good concept of self. And they were, yeah. When you don't have a good concept of self, you fail as a company. You flail. They didn't fail. They flailed around until they got their shit together. But now they're Coca fucking Cola. They own everything, and I think they're what 3/4 of the market, and then Pepsi's the other like 25%, and then there's or 30%, and then there's so I think Coke's like 60%, Pepsi's like 30%, and then there's all the rest that are 10%. And Coke may not be 60%; they may be like 55%, and Pepsi's still like 30%. But they're super dominant all across the world, and it's not because they're really well managed. It's just because they're really super dominant all across the world, and they own 500 brands, and Pepsi owns 500 brands, and I think the other one is Snapple, Dr Pepper, whatever. I don't know. I don't think the other one is just a single brand. I think the other one is just like 6 brands that are spread out. Dr Pepper does own 2 root beer companies though. Barks and A&W. I think Dr Pepper owns them both. So there you go. Correct. Before Coca-Cola Classic came out, it used cane sugar, not. Okay. There you go. There you go. I think Billion Rider 2012-2015 National Defense Authorization Act. Oh, of course. That makes sense. The NDA is always a bipartisan bill. All advertising is a lie. That is correct. I talked about that on a podcast today. I had a guy come over to the distillery. We talked about the podcast and the backstories of the marketing stories, the backstories of so many whiskeys are just bullshit. Just unfiltered, they're well crafted stories. Like Bullet. Bullet's backstory is a well crafted story invented almost entirely by Diageo. Um, Uncle Nearest is an entire brand that is predicated on a New York Times story that came out in 2016 about Uncle Nearest, who was the slave owned by the foster father of Jack Daniels, under whom Jack Daniels learned how to make whiskey. Um, there's no evidence that Uncle Nearest existed before 2016. And it was a great story that launched a brand. And the question is, the perfectly reasonable question is, did Uncle Nearest exist before that story? Did the brand exist before Uncle Nearest? Did the brand exist? Was that story released in conjunction with the creation of the company? Because it just so happens that 5 years later, Uncle Nearest comes out on the market. 4 years later, I think it was, Uncle Nearest comes out on the market. Um, I mean, there's a bunch of them that there's kernels of truth in all these stories, but there's a whole bunch of these stories that are just fully invented stories that are just pulled right out of the ass. Um, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything. They're selling a brand. They're creating a story. They're creating a narrative. Um, yes, Uncle Nearest. That is correct. Uncle Nearest. Um, but they're stories. They're creating stories. They're telling a good story to invent a brand and sell a brand, and you're not just selling a product. You're selling an idea. You're selling an image. You're selling you know in the 80s and 90s, Pepsi wasn't selling a product. They were selling this edgy, new wave, next generation, uh, MTV generation cola drink that people drank because it made them feel cool. They drank it because Cindy Crawford drank it. They drank it because um, just because for all kinds of dumb reasons, and also because they thought it tasted good. That was another reason, but that was by far because it tastes good is not the reason you try it for the first time. Because it tastes good is never the reason you try a product for the first time. You try a product for the first time because it sounds interesting and has a good story and something caught your eye. It has a good label, it has a good story, it has a good package, it has a somebody gave you a sample for free. They've got good merchandise, they've got good product placement for whatever reason. You like the spokesmodel was pretty. The dude who had the bottle had a hot chick with him. You try a product for the first time for a myriad of reasons, and the least of which is it tastes good because you don't know if it tastes good or not. At the very, very least, you try it because somebody else told you that it tastes good. Nobody ever tries it for the first time because it tastes good, because they don't know if it tastes good or not. They try it because it might, but there's no way for them to know it does, so they're definitely not trying it because it tastes good. Nobody ever tries a product for the first time because it tastes good. Nobody. Ever. Ever, 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 ever tried a product for the first time because it tastes good. So, there's that. Um, Labatt Light tastes better than both Bud or there is 1,000 things that taste better than both Bud Light and Miller Light. There are, I mean, there is, I mean, I have, I have burned food, dropped it on the ground, kicked it under the fridge, had to fish it out with a yardstick, and pulled it out from under the fridge, and even that tastes better than Miller Lite. Miller Lite doesn't taste like it. Miller Lite tastes like hops and water. Miller Lite does not taste good. I don't like Miller Lite. I don't like Bud Light. Definitely don't like Bud Light. I like Miller Lite better than Bud Light, but I don't like either one of them. I prefer Miller High Life to Miller Lite. I prefer Lone Star to Miller High Life. If I had to choose, there were 3 bottles on the shelf. Bud Light, 4 bottles on the shelf. Bud Light, Miller High Life, and Lone Star. I'd pick Lone Star. And if they were out of Lone Star, I'd pick High Life. And if they were out of High Life, I would get a tonic water. I'm not gonna drink Bud and Miller Light. I'm not gonna drink either one of those. If I can avoid it, I'm gonna avoid it. Now, when in Rome, you do as the Romans. So if I'm at someone's house and they're drinking Miller Lite, I'll drink Miller Lite with them. My cousin's funeral, he drank Miller Lite before he died. Obviously, he doesn't drink it now because he's dead. But at his funeral, in honor of his memory, we all drank Miller Lite all night long. We told stories, we told lies, we told all the things that you do at a good old country boy's funeral at his wake. We drank all the Miller Lite. We must have gone through 20 cases of Miller Lite that night. All of us cousins sitting around telling the stories. Here's to you, Tommy. I'll see you. See you there by the lake, buddy. We miss you, my man. God damn, that was a good night. It was a good night. It was a good wake. It was a good party. It felt good to be there with all my cousins and be there in his spirit. Yeah. I hope he keeps them cold for me by the lake when I get up there. If I get up there, sure I will. Hope he keeps them cold for me. He's a good man. He was. He was a good man. Nobody had anything bad to say about Tommy. But anyway, on we go. Yes, Uncle Nearest. Uncle Nearest, the slave who was owned by the preacher who was the foster father for Jack Daniels and taught Jack Daniels how to distill whiskey. So Jack Daniels is Uncle Nearest's fault. The Gamer Fuel Mountain Dew. Ugh. Yeah, Mountain Dew. Oh God, I should probably revisit the Mountain Dew cocktail that was Mountain Dew and whiskey because I had Mountain Dew Light and it tasted like shit. But I should probably. Who owns Mountain Dew? Hey Siri, who owns Mountain Dew? Bet you Pepsi owns it.
Here's an answer from yourdictionary.com.
Mountain Dew is owned by PepsiCo. Mountain Dew is owned by PepsiCo. Told you Pepsi owns it. The big brands, Pepsi, Coke, Bud, Miller, are always in vending. You get Budweiser and Miller in vending machines? What? Where the fuck world do you live in where they have Coke and Budweiser in vending machines together? Are you high? Most of those brands are, well, Pepsi and Coke are, of course, big conglomerates. They own like 50 brands. Budweiser is owned by InBev, which is an international conglomerate. Miller is owned by it's not Coors Labatt. It's Miller is owned by another. Fuck. Hey Siri, who owns Miller Beer?
The answer I found is
SAB. SAB Miller is the parent organization. It is a South African multinational brewing and beverage company headquartered in Woking, England, on the outskirts of London until October 2016 when it was acquired by Anheuser-Busch. I'll be goddamn. Miller is owned by Busch. InBev. Huh. Prior to that date, it was the world's second largest brewer. 2016, Miller was bought by InBev. Motherfuck. Second largest brewer measured by revenues and was also a major bottler of Coca-Cola. Its brands included Foster's, Miller, Pilsner, Urquell, and operated in 80 countries worldwide. I had no idea that Miller had been bought by InBev. Huh. So there you go. InBev owns Miller. So Coors is owned by, it's Coors Labatt, if I'm not mistaken. You don't think Lone Star is in Michigan, but you'll look for Lone Star is the national beer of Texas. Lone Star is an independent. I think it's independent. Let's find out. Hey Siri, who owns Lone Star beer?
Here's an answer from Wikipedia. The Lone Star brand is owned by Pabst Brewing Company.
Pabst Brewing Company owns the Lone Star brand. Tell me more, Siri. Pabst Brewing Company owns the Lone Star Brewing Company. Pabst Brewing Company bought them in 1999. They own several treasured American brands, including I think they include Schlitz. Tell me more. Lone Star is owned by Pabst. Let's see here. Origins. Having been in business for around 125 years, starting in 1883, beer baron Adolphus Busch and his business partners built the Lone Star Brewery in San Antonio, which was the first large mechanized brewery in Texas. 1 year later, Lone Star Brewery produces its first beer, growing more popular with every beer sold. Blah blah blah. Who else does Pabst own? Let's find out. Oop, wrong button. Hey Siri, what beverage brands does Pabst own? Let's see here. Oh, holy shit. Pabst was bought by a Russian company in 2014? God damn, I haven't paid any attention to this shit in years. Let's tell me more. Iconic American Pabst Blue Ribbon brand will soon be owned by a Russian company under a deal to sell the Los Angeles-based brewer for an undisclosed sum. Pabst Brewing Company, with such brands as Colt 45, Old Milwaukee, and Schlitz, was acquired 4 years ago by C. Metropolis and Company, is now being sold to Russia's Oasis Beverages and private equity firm TSG Consumer Partners LLC. The price tag for Pabst is thought to be between $700 million and $750 million. See, we don't even fucking know who owns what anymore. All right, let's see here. I'm going to look it up real quick. Who owns what brands does Pabst own? And see, even these guys, they own like 50 brands. You know, it's another one of those deals where they're like, all these brands are owned by one company. So they have Schlitz, Lone Star, Pabst, Colt 45, Old Milwaukee, National Bohemian, Valerian Blatst Brewing Company, Stroh Brewing Company, St. Ides Brewing Company, G. Helleman Brewing Company, Olympia Brewing Company, and Jacob Schmidt Brewing Company. So there you go. Is PBR still Russian owned? The company is still owned by an American citizen, but that was 2014. Turns out Russians didn't buy Pabst after all. But that was 2014. Okay, fuck it. I'm not going to keep going down this rabbit hole. We're gonna be done with this for a little while. Back to the show. Enough research live. Yes, a proper wake includes a wet down. Do not make cocktails. Yes, cocktails with Diet Dew. That was bad. It was really bad. It was terrible. In Japan, you can. I guess the vending machines. Gotcha. In Japan, you can buy most anything in a vending machine except prescription drugs. A specific exception that I'm okay. Pabst, Blue Ribbon. Phone battery may die. Warning. Thank you for the warning, JLM. I think all those Detroit brands at some point. I know Stroh's certainly was. Yeah. There's a lot of consolidation in the beer industry. There's like there's a lot of consolidation in the beer industry. AB InBev owns most of the brands. They're the biggest fucking. They bought Miller. I had no idea that they bought Miller. But Pabst is still owned. I mean, they own. I think it said they own 50, but I listed 8 or 16 brands, and then Coors, Labatt's, owns a bunch of brands on their end. And it's the same way with the whiskey industry. There's so many brands that come out of uh, the same company. There's like 6 companies in the whiskey industry that own most of the big brands. There's a lot of small guys like me that have a lot of uh, that have a lot of brands, but we don't have a lot of market share. We're tiny, tiny operators compared to the big fellas out there. Um, and that is, that's part of the deal. We get to operate for as long as we want to operate, and as long as we don't make waves and cause ruckuses. And then if we make waves and cause ruckuses, then they buy us, and we get a big fat paycheck, and we go away. That's kind of how it works. I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly willing to sell my brand. They make big dump trucks, and you can fill them with cash. Faygo Sodas from Detroit was founded by Russian brothers very long ago, so the Russian connection surprised me not at all. Hey Siri, who owns Faygo Pop today?
Here's an answer from Wikipedia.
Faygo
Faygo
Beverages Inc.
Beverages, Incorporated, is a wholly owned subsidiary of the National Beverage Corporation and started in Detroit, Michigan in 1907 as Fegenson Brothers Bottling Works.
So it is a wholly owned subsidiary of National Beverage Corporation. Who owns what brands? Stop. Hello, what brands does National Beverage Corporation own? National Beverage Corporation owns, let's go to their Wikipedia page. National Beverage Corporation owns soft drinks, subsidiaries, Big Shot Beverage, Everfresh Beverage, Faygo Beverages, LaCroix Beverages, National Retail Brands Inc., Shasta. They own Shasta Beverages. List of all their brands. Let's see. Shasta, Faygo, Everfresh, LaCroix, Rip It, Clearfruit, Mr. Pure, Ritz, Crystal Bay, Cascadia Sparkling Clear, Ohana Punch, Big Shot, Double Hit, Faygo. Faygo, isn't that the stuff for the Juggalos drink? Hey Siri, what do the Juggalos drink?
A Gigallo is a fan of the hip-hop group Insane Clown
Yeah, I
Posse.
know. Hey Siri, what soft drink is popular with Juggalos? 5 drinks beside Faygo that Juggalos are crazy. It is Faygo. Faygo and Juggalos go hand in hand like peanut butter and chocolate. I didn't think I was crazy. Do they have Faygo in Texas? I think they do. I think they do. Um, I I know about it. I obviously I know about it. I'm sure they do. Hey Siri, can I get Faygo in Texas?
Okay, I found this on the web, but can I get
Here's a
Faygo in
list
Texas?
of
Check it out.
locator. Faygo Inc. Let's see. Faygo locator. Find your Faygo. Enter a location. I guess by zip code. Okay, close. Close. Try again. This application does not work. This is a locator for Faygo, and I try to put in my information to the search bar. Oh, here we go. 77. Yeah. Houston, Texas, right there. Search. Oh yeah, Fiesta Mart on Mesa. The Fiesta Mart on Jensen, the Fiesta Mart on Airline, the Fiesta Mart on Lockwood, the Fiesta, a bunch of Fiestas. Foodtown, Fiesta. So it is available in Fiesta Marts all through the Houston area. Yeah, we got Faygo down here. Yeah, see? Faygo, all over the place. I have my whiskey in more locations in Houston than Faygo has their pop in more locations. Take that, Faygo Pop. Um, it probably would make. I could make the Juggalo cocktail. The I could make a Juggalo cocktail. Huh. It might make a good mixer. Um, probably make a decent mixer. Probably would. I don't think I've ever had Faygo. I know of it, but I don't think I've ever had it. I don't think I've ever actually put Faygo in my body. Maybe I should do a show as with the Juggalo makeup and drink Faygo and make a Faygo cocktail. Maybe I should do a cocktail corner where I do a Faygo cocktail. Yeah, we have definitely shifted the conversation. Let me see if there's such a thing as a Faygo cocktail. Uh, Faygo cocktail. What even is it? Uh, Fogo Real is Novo Fogo Cajaca. Fogo. There's a lot of Fogo, but no Faygo. How to make an old-fashioned cocktail with Novo Fogo barrel-aged Cajaca. That's not a Faygo pop. And that's always how I've referred to it. It's Faygo pop. It's not just a soda or a cola. It's a Faygo pop. Faygo. Did I spell it right? It's Faygo, isn't it? I didn't spell it right. Fay, Faygo cocktail. Using Faygo in a couple of drinks for summer. Michigan Radio. It is a Detroit thing, isn't it? Cannabis Faygo cotton candy color changing cocktail recipe. Holy Jesus. These juggalos are fucking crazy. Faygo drink recipes by Bar None Drinks. Let's find out. Let's read one. Satan's Bitch, Coca-Cola Faygo, Jägermeister whiskey. The Sloppy Snatch is Faygo, gin, Johnny Walker, raspberry sourpuss. The Bojo Shooter, Captain Morgan Spice Rum, and Faygo. This would be a fucking awesome cocktail corner. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Coca-Cola, Faygo, Jägermeister, and whiskey. Satan's Bitch. The Sloppy Snatch cocktail. Faygo, gin, Johnny Walker, raspberry sour. I need to have people over at the distillery. We need to do this. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is going to, okay. I'm going to work this. We're going to figure this out. Maybe as part of the 72-hour streamathon. Maybe. Holy shit. Okay. No permanent hair dye or such. It'll take forever. No, juggalos do the white paint, and I could do white beard, black, white, black, white, or do it like a relief. We'll do black. No, we'll do white, the beard and white. No, that'd be blackface. We can't do that. See, we do things that are offensive. We can't do offensive things. That would not be offensive in the 40s. That would be offensive today. Freedom of speech, my ass. But I could probably, I could do my juggalo makeup. Do white, black, a line black, white, black. Yeah, I could do my proper juggalo makeup. I could figure out a way to do it. Oh Lord. Oh yeah, it absolutely have to be water based. And I would be much more down with doing white and black than I was with doing the blue. Because I can't, man, I hated it. God damn, I hated it when I made my beard blue. I hate it. I absolutely hated it. Are you allowed to use blue for Juggalo makeup? Can you do that? Can I do like the blue beard and then like white, then black across the eyes? So it'd be like black here, then white, then blue. Could I do that? Are you allowed to use blue makeup for Juggalo paint? Hey Siri, are you allowed to use blue makeup for Juggalo paint?
Okay, I found this on the web for Are You Allowed to Use Blue Makeup for Juggalo
Are there
Paint?
any rules
Check it
with
out.
Juggalo face paint? Let's see here. I'm new, LOL, and I'm not sure if there are any rules for Juggalo face paint. Do I have to have it done a specific way? Can only certain people wear it? Do you make your own designs? You need to be vetted by old juggalos. Only those who have been to 5 gatherings or more are allowed to wear the paint. You must get at least 30 ninjas who have given you a whoop whoop. Geez, all this shit is right in the Juggalo handbook. Didn't you get a handbook? Oh, Christ. Right, like read the fucking manual. I still haven't seen him with his baptismal video until I see the videotape footage of his Fago shower. He won't get his book though, so maybe that's what the problem is. Okay, so I take it there's no standards. um, but I'm pretty sure it has to be black and white. Um, I'm pretty sure it has to be black. I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to use blue paint. There are no rules that I can think of. You can paint up just like Jay and Shaggy. You can create your own original look. Anybody can do it. Uh, let me look. Let me take a quick look. Juggalo paint. Let me see if there's pictures. Because this is all black and white. I see all black and white images. Let's go just straight to the images. See, it's all black and white. There's no blue paint for Juggalo face shit. Uh, there's this chick. Tasteful Juggalo face paint for every occasion. Uh, yeah, it's all black and white. I mean, there's got to be like blue is like a blue so dank it looks dark. Not dank, dark, except it looks black, except under the bars, black lights. Maybe. There's red. Place your bets. Juggalos are feds. Face paint design. See, these guys have red. Red. I guess I could do this on like a secondary like page on a panel on my page. I guess I wouldn't be looking at my phone. It's probably rude to look at my phone, right? But oh, here's a dude in blue, and this is a chick in red. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be blue. It doesn't have to be black and white. It can be blue and red, and black and white. I guess. So I guess I could do the blue beard and white and black face paint. I can't do red dye for my hair. I can't. If I did red on my head, it would look like an inflamed pimple on my neck. uh, so yeah, that's a no. um, Um, good Lord. And by the way, Bar None Drinks was just one of the pages that came up. I looked for Faygo cocktails, Faygo cocktails. There were several pages that came up. That was just like one of the top 3, by the way. Um, like a blue so dark, yeah. Red dye for that. The blue Lone Ranger makeup was okay, I guess. Do the blue beard, do just like a blue beard. It go like blue, and then black, and then white, then black again up here for the eyes. I could do that, and then have the hat because I'm not gonna not wear my hat. And then we do a Juggalo cocktail night. Have Lisa and a couple other people come in and go, "We're gonna do cocktails tonight here at the distillery, and these people are gonna drink them." Fago and Jägermeister and whiskey. God. my God. Oh my God. Oh, it just sounds like the worst thing. It just sounds like the absolute worst thing. Maybe we'll do that during the maybe we will do that during the 72 hours. I'll like do the paint on camera. See, that's the thing about a 72-hour live stream. There's no downtime. So if I want to break between like segments or anything like that, it's just like we're in between segments, entertain yourselves, and then I'm like, I guess I could have like break panels. Like we're out for 15 minutes. We'll be back at the top of the hour. Um, I guess I could do that. I haven't done full face makeup since Halloween 1993. Holy Jesus. When you did Jack Nicholson Joker. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's fair. I have never done full face makeup. Never have I done full face paint. Just the idea never appealed to me. Doing Dracula, vampire, uh, anything. No. Having that grease paint on my skin. I've never liked the face painting. You know, the kids go to the places and do the face painting. Nah, never liked it. Never liked the idea. Never wanted to do it. Even when I was like a little kid, it was just like ugh, gross. And that's the thing. I don't like having ink on my fingers. I don't like paint on my fingers. I don't like ink on my nails or anything like that. And I will scrub that shit right off. That drives me absolutely crazy. Um, I don't even like, when you're like making bread and you have the flour and you're kneading the dough and it gets on your fingers and you have the clumpy flour fingers. Oh, I always hated that too. Ugh, always hated that. Fell asleep in the red hair and the green hair dye. Rip your sheets and pillows. Yep, that'll do it. That will do it. 100%. Okay, it is 12:52. JLM, it is just you and me right now. I'm going to. I think it's time to call it a night. I'm having a great time, but I think it's time to call it a night. I really do, because I do have to get up in the morning and bring my mother to the airport, because she is going out of town and I am her ride to the airport. So, we have added 9,200 views to our view count tonight, which will put us at a very not on this show. These shows usually get has this show gotten? Let me look. 33, 1750, 17 minutes per view on average. 33 times 17 divided by 60. We've added almost 10 hours to the show tonight. I'm gonna go what is it? 1 o'clock. I'm gonna go a little bit longer to get my full 11 hours that I need to get. I'm going to go a little bit longer. Let's go another 30 minutes. Yeah, I'm going to go 30 minutes. I'm going to have one more drink, and then I'm going to have one more drink. I'm going to do my housekeeping stuff. Maybe I'll play my harmonica a little bit. But let me talk real quick about this 72-hour. I've talked about the kangaroo fight. Let me talk a little bit more about the 72. Oh, you know what I need to talk about? The plan. I don't know if this is going to be this summer or next. It'll probably be next summer. So space whiskey. We're going to talk more about this space whiskey. I'm sorry, space whiskey. You got to say it like that. You got to say it with the hands. Space whiskey. So big brain people have told me that it can't be done. Big brain people have told me that if I put a barrel on the edge of the atmosphere, it will explode because the contents inside will freeze and vaporize at the same time, causing undue pressure on not the barrel itself, but the barrel heads, the top and bottom, so it will not blow out this way. You have your barrel like this, and the round part won't blow out the staves, it'll blow out the barrel heads. Yes. Okay, well, yeah, let's talk about the 3-day live event. Let's talk about the 72-hour live stream. So the plan is to start Friday at noon, go 12 hours Friday at noon, from Friday noon to Saturday noon would be 24 hours. Then Saturday noon to Sunday noon would be 48 hours. Then Sunday noon to Monday noon would be 72 hours. Go the full weekend, Friday noon to Monday noon. At the distillery, 3 cameras. I'll have this camera here. I'll have my big camera that is at the distillery, and then I'll have my laptop camera. So I'll have 3 different cameras that I can have on, but I also can have intermediary segments. I'm not going to stay awake for the whole thing, but we're going to stay live streaming for 72 straight hours. And during this time, I'll barrel up my bourbon, or bottle up my bourbon. We'll barrel up a batch of bourbon. We'll label the bottles, cork the bottles, uh, do the whole process of the bourbon going into the barrels, out of the barrels, into the bottles, and into the cases. Get ready for sale. We'll open up the shop to do the sales. The camera will be on me, so my customers don't have to be on camera. We'll do guest interviews. The preliminary list of guests that I've contacted and have confirmed. I don't have my list of confirmed, but I've got. I don't want to release names or too much information yet because I want to have more of a thing. But I've got a science guest, a cosplay guest. I've got a burlesque performer. I've got a comedian. I've got a podcast that is going to record a podcast on the show. I've got a musical guest that will come in and do a set for several hours. I've got several musical guests that I can rebroadcast from previous shows, including Ryan Adam Wells, including JB Zay, including Josh Brown, including all kinds of guys that I can bring in and rebroadcast from my Friday nights live. I can do. I have another science-based performer. I have a voice artist. I've got. Who the fuck is that? I've got 2 sideshow performers that would love to come in. I don't know, and they're not all going to come in live. Some of them will come in live. Some of them will come in remote. I hope to have a real live Hollywood budget movie real live Hollywood actress who performs in movies that have budgets. And the director of that movie to come in with her. This is going to be a big production. We're going to do a lot of stuff, and I may even have another podcast come in to do the thing. A cigar vendor come in to work on one of the podcasts that we're going to be doing, and of course my show. I have all the shit that we do, open forums. Be able to bring up the Zoom screen for people to come in and join me for 30 minutes or whatever. We're gonna, there's a lot of things that we can throw into this production, and I think I can continue a full, stable 72-hour production. I think I can run this thing the entire time. Tentatively scheduled right now for late January. I'm looking at probably January 20th or 27th. To kick it off, but like I said, I haven't really nailed it down yet. I just started putting this idea together 2 nights ago. Just started putting this thing together 2 nights ago. So I've got, and it may not be a full 72 hours. I might cut it off at 48 hours. I don't know. I haven't decided yet because the goal for this thing is. Okay, so I'm sitting down thinking about how to get, my budget of hours that I need to get in order to monetize the channel, right? So I'm thinking about this, and I need like 2,100 hours to monetize my channel. and I'm thinking this is going to take me at least 6 months to because the idea is you get 4,000 hours over 12 months. So if I need 2,000 hours, then that means that I have to figure out how to do this in 6 months. But I was thinking a couple nights ago, I'm thinking to myself, I says to myself, self, and myself says yes. I'm thinking, why do I have to go 6 months? Why don't I try and rack up a big chunk of hours in like one like big thing, like try and get like 1,000 hours in like one sitting, right? And then the thought was, what if I did 2,000 hours in one sitting? What if I knocked this whole fucking thing out in one sitting? What would that look like? And then I start doing the math, and over the course of 72 hours, if we get 3 people come in for each of the 72 hours, right? 3 different people come in for each, or let's say 5 people. Like, normally these live shows, this has been going on for 3 hours. We've had 10 people an hour. According to my analytics that I perused, we've had so far, the count is 34 views, and we've been going for a solid 3 hours, right? So 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Those 3 hours, so 11 people per hour. If we get 11 people per hour come through on a 72-hour show, so that's 11 people times 72, that's 792 people. So if I want 2,000 hours divided by 792 people, that's 2.5 hours per person. That's probably a lot to ask per person coming in. To give me 2.5 hours of their time, each and every one of them, 2.5 hours. But if we can double that number of people, that's only 45 minutes. And if we do a trivia show, if we do a trivia segment, if we do if I record names and we give away a bottle of whiskey to one of the people that comes through on the show for the 72 hours, assuming that you're a I mean, I can do some things to kind of try and boost the number of people that come through, boost the number of time, the amount of time that they spend. Uh, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that we could probably pull somewhere between 600 and 1,000 hours over the course of 72, maybe 36. Maybe we don't do the full 72. Maybe we just do 36. Maybe we get 1,000 hours. We can pull 1,000 hours, and at that point, I only need to pull another 1,000 to get monetized. It'd be a fun stunt. It'd be a cool thing to do. Maybe we could do it. I know the way Safety Dot got monetized is he just did a fucking live show every day for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, however long he did it. He did a live show every damn day, get 12 hours a day every day for 6 weeks, and then that pays off. So so that was the idea. That's the idea. And then I'm like, what would a 72-hour show even look like? When would I sleep? How would I do I need to sleep? I should probably sleep. But I could pop on a pre-recorded show for 3 hours and take a nap, fall asleep for 3 hours, and wake up after 2.5 hours. I wake up and boom, we roll into the next segment. 5 hours later, pop on another 3-hour show, take a sleep. I could do that. I could definitely pull that off. But I need to make sure that I can do it, because that same weekend, 27, 28, 29, that's the weekend. That's actually the weekend in between the championship game and the conference championships and the Super Bowl for the NFL. That might be the best weekend to do it. We'll see. We shall see. I haven't decided yet. I haven't decided the length. I haven't decided the timing. I haven't decided on all this stuff. But it's something that I want to do. And I think the later I do it in January, the more likely the bourbon will be ready to barrel up and bottle up. So that's probably when I'm going to do it, like that last weekend of January is what I'm kind of leaning towards. So if you are curious to see what this shit show disaster is going to look like, here's your chance. Find out what we got going on. I know a juggler. I can bring the juggler in. We could have a juggler come in during the Juggalo cocktail segment. That would be fucking hilarious. be like, I misread it. I thought it said juggler, but it says juggalo. Becky, could you throw some things around and catch them? That would be hilarious. Yeah, that'd be hilarious. Anyway, so yeah, yeah. So there you go. So that's the idea for the 72-hour 72-hour streamathon. I haven't decided how that's going to shape up and shake out yet, but we're working on it. So yeah, the wood barrels, they're correct. They'll explode. The wood barrels, they're correct. They might explode, but what they said was, yeah, you can't do that. That's going to blow up a barrel. What I heard was, we haven't figured out how to do this yet. So, I mean, maybe I dip the barrel in epoxy. Maybe I seal the barrel in epoxy so that when it goes to the edge of space, it doesn't explode. It's actually sealed in an epoxy wrapper or an epoxy container. Maybe that's the way to do it, so that the whiskey is in contact with the barrel the whole time, but the barrel can't explode because it's sealed in an acrylic shell. But if I do that, it doesn't serve the purpose that I want it to serve in actually exposing the whiskey to the extreme environment of space. It does have a drastic temperature change. It does have a drastic pressure change, because even though it's a sealed container, it's not a pressurized container. So the container will actually try to expand. I need to think about that. I need to think about it. We'll see. We'll see. Trade you a van full of beer for a no. Nice try. No. Uh, is the bar a cigar bar? The bar is not a cigar bar. The bar is just a bar. It's my bar. It's the distillery's bar. But we will have a cigar club at the distillery, and we might have a cigar club at the distillery with this guy's brand of cigars. Entirely possible, because these cigars are fucking delicious. They're called Hereford cigars. They're available here in Houston. It's like a private label. They're his label. He distributes them here in the city. They are really good. I know the guy who packs them for him, wraps the cigars for him. Went to the same high school as I did. Cheers, Top Shelf. Dustin, welcome to the party. They're delicious cigars. I smoked one of them today. They are just fucking delightful. Absolutely delightful cigars. So maybe, maybe they'll be our house brand that we use for our cigar club cigars. Maybe, I mean, we'll see. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We got a lot of things that I want to try and do in 2023. The question is whether or not I have the resources to do it. There's a lot of things I want to do in 2022 that I just didn't have the resources. So there's, once the bourbon starts coming online, I expect to have more resources available, and we'll have 5 brands being sold side by side. 4 brands going side by side on the shelves, with our bourbon, our rye, our straight whiskey, special reserve, everything going all at once. The question is going to be whether we have the supply for our straight whiskey, special reserve, and rye. We certainly have the supply for the bourbon. It's just there's a lot of things that I want to do, and there's a lot of question marks as to whether or not I'll even be able to do it, because we just may not have the resources. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Don't know. How about 13 months from now? 13 months. Doing a live 13 months from now? No, I can't wait that long. I can't wait 13 months. We have to get this shit knocked out now. I want to get this shit knocked out sooner the sooner I get it knocked out, the less I have to worry about this shit. I can focus on other things. Do a few 24-hour streams. I did that with our the rye whiskey release a year ago. I did a series of 6-hour live streams, a 24-hour streamathon, broken up over the course of 4 days, 5 days. and it was fine. It was the whole work process of bottling up, dumping the barrels of rye, bottling up, dumping them, filtering, bottling them, getting the whole release done for the bourbon or for the rye. But I wanted to do something a little bit bigger. The bourbon is a bigger deal than the rye. The rye was a big deal. It was a great big deal. It was the first all new product that we'd released uh, since I opened up the all new product, because the straight whiskey was a derivative of our Roughneck Reserve. Our Special Reserve was a derivative of our straight whiskey. Our Boomtown Bourbon, we had already had the Boomtown Bourbon when we rebranded to Old Humble. The rye was the first whiskey that I had made entirely in my own shop. So, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. And I really, really, really want to get like 1,000 view hours out of this thing. So I want to go as long as I possibly can. I know I can get 72 from myself, from my own phone. Uh, I know I can get 150 if I add another phone, um, hijack my kid's computer or my kid's phone or whatever and have his, YouTube on in the background. Um, bring two more computers to the distillery and have them stream the show the entire time. I can work the system if I need to, but 70, 140, 72, 144, 220, 216. Got another 72, 216, then 288 would be four computers running the show together. One, two, three, four. Yeah, four computers running the show together would be 288. So, I'd be quarter of the way there if my goal was 1,000 hours. Just having uh, four computers in my shop playing the show constantly the whole time. Because the low end goal is 1,000, the high end goal is 2,000. I want to get this. I want to get this fucking monetization number just knocked the fuck out, right? But um, I wonder if you could just do that. Like open up like 5 instances of YouTube running in the background with 5 different uh, channels activated and getting 5 hours of watch time per hour that you do it. I wonder because I've of course got my streaming on my own phone, so I at least have 3 hours of the show, myself. Uh, but yeah. So anyway, um, yeah. Well, that's the that's the that's the tentative goal. Uh, that's the tentative goal is that last weekend in January, before the Super Bowl, after the NFL championships, conference championships, and doing a 72-hour live stream that weekend from Friday till Monday. Um, the 11:59:59 is okay, so they can go 12 hours, but not longer. I know I can go more than 12 hours. I know people have gone 24. I've seen it. Not the whole time, obviously. Um, you implying I gotta watch when I just have the stream going. 7% fading fast. JLM's dying right in front of our eyes. There's ways to go for one. There's ways to go from one live to another. Gaming channel I know does that often. From January 2024. Yeah, no, I don't want. I don't want to wait till January during 2024. I want to do this January 2023. Good night, JLM. It was a pleasure seeing you. Thanks for having the chat. Have a great night. Uh, it's Hereford, Heraford, Hereford, Heraford, Hereford. And they also have a YouTube channel. Go check them out. Heraford. I'll post the video of today's interview when it posts. I'll post the link to the video when it posts on his channel, so y'all can go check it out. We had a good time. We shot the shit. We enjoyed ourselves. We talked a lot. The conversation went all over the place. It was fun. Uh, JB Weld, JB Weld advertising tie-in. Maybe, maybe. My beard is all shaggy. It's all like shaggy down here in the back of my jaw. Like this is just like too much. Anyway, so where are we at? It's 1:15. I said I was going to go at least another 30 minutes. I've gone 15. I'm over here just trying to squeeze in as much time as I can on the live stream. Um, in fact, I'm going to go one better. Heraford. Here's his link to Hereford cigars. Where is it? Hereford cigars. Cigars. Where's it at? I had it. I fucking subscribed today. Hereford cigars. I subscribed to his goddamn channel today. Filter. Channel. Go. Maybe it's Hereford. Ferd? Uh, Hera. Hereford. Heref Kenya. That's not it. You know what? I probably would find it in my library. No. You know what I'll find? I know where I'll find it. If I go to my channel and look for community, no, channels. Here we go. It'll be here probably. No, where the fuck is Groove Adhesive? Well, I can't fucking find them. I know how to find them. Harraford. There we go. Nope, that's Hartford. Harraford. Cigars. Nope. Hereford? H-E-R-E? No. It's not Hereford. I have the brand at my distillery. I don't have it here. I didn't bring it home with me. Heraford. I think that's how it's spelled. Herafordsigars. This sucks. I know I have it right here. Here we go. Nope, that's not it either. Cigar Guy. I just wrote him down. Cigar Guy. Let me see if I have it in my contacts. Here we go. Recents. Ray. Oop. Stop. I accidentally called him. Heraford. I had it right the first time. Heraford. That is correct. Search the tube, not Google, if you're looking for a channel. Yeah, Heraford. That is the channel. Heraford. Heraford. Cigars. And I want to limit it to just channels. The problem is he only has like 155 subscribers, so it's hard to find him, no matter how hard you look, because I get no results found. So he's there. Hereford cigars. They're here. They're awesome. They're good folks. Hereford. Let's see if it I'm just going to randomly look and see if it shows up with the vidges. So, bingo, found them. Nope, that's just the V-cut cigar. That's not right. He's in here somewhere. I'll find him. What are we talking about? I'm just gonna sit here and scroll through. I'm gonna scroll through my channel while y'all watch me scroll through my stuff. I'm just fucking kidding. I'm not gonna do that. Anyway. Okay, so where are we at? We're done. We're done. Show's over. It's 1:21. Space Whiskey, June 2024. 72-hour live stream. End of January. Tomorrow night trivia. Next week a Wednesday night show. No Thursday night show. Probably Christmas, and then we're out. Probably do a forum show on Sunday, and then yeah, we'll just stuff and things and stuff like that. The New Year's extravaganza, we launch off 1,300 rockets as a celebration of the end of the year and beginning of uh, the new, the new promise of 2023. And then we go from there. Guys, this has been fun. This has been fun. It's been a fun night. It's been a fun show. I've enjoyed the conversation. I've enjoyed the banter back and forth, all the stuff. Um, it's been fun. These shows are fun. I like doing these shows. We should do more of them. Once a week. We should definitely do one of these once a week. We should definitely do these once a week. And I've got to do something about this beard. Got to do something about it. I'm just too. Maybe I should just like trim it. Just like this is just too much down here. It just fluffs out. I don't like this. It's just too much. I don't like that. All right, guys. I'm trying to stall for 8 more minutes. Dustin, you got a question that I can spend 8 minutes answering? Do these daily, nightly, and ever so rightly. Yeah, I mean, the problem is I don't have anything. I don't have enough to talk about to do these daily. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't want to do just current events because they get boring. You know, they're dumb. Current events are dumb. I don't want to do current events. Thoughts on the 50 basis point rate hike and what I expect for next year. Oh, geez, you want 8 minutes on that? 50 basis point rate hike is less than what we expected because the last several have been 3/4 to a point. So 50 basis point is better than what we expected. You know, this is just a weird fucking economic time because we've got here in Houston, we've got United at our hub, the Intercontinental Airport here. United's at our hub, and they are just hiring like crazy. They don't have enough people on staff to do the work that they need to do. They are hiring like crazy. And at their hub in Denver, they can't hire people because nobody can pass their basic requirements because Colorado has legal marijuana, and marijuana is a disqualifier for United's employment at the hub there, Denver Intercontinental Airport. So they're hiring people here in Texas and shipping them to Colorado. But meanwhile, unemployment is at 3%. And there's a lot of people who aren't in the workforce because they're either entrepreneurs or they're retired or they're disabled or what. The myth is that people aren't working because they don't want to work, but that's not true. They're not working because they they have other means that they don't need to work. They're either retired, they're wealthy, they're entrepreneurs, they're running their own business, whatever it is, or they're making enough money in the gig economy that they don't need to get a W-2 job. And they're doing DoorDash and playing music or whatever. They're trying to make their dream work. So there's just not enough people to fill the so the Fed, there's not enough people to fill the jobs that need to be filled. So the Fed is trying to just jack rates in order to slow down the economy so that companies won't hire because there won't but something's got to give. We've got housing prices that are just cuckoo bird crazy insane, partly as a result of low interest rate environment that we've enjoyed since the early 80s. We've got this low interest rate environment. Every year for 40 years, we heard the rates are at the lowest they've ever been. These are historic lows. This is the first time they've been saying that they're not at historic lows because they've been actually raising interest rates for the last, whatever, 9 months. Uh, 9 months, 12 months, however long they've been raising the interest rates. But housing prices are crazy. Inflation is not abating. Unemployment is practically we're practically full employment. Uh, Companies are understaffed because they had cheap labor for so many years that they didn't bother on optimizing and automating processes. Something's got to fucking give. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I mean, and here's the thing. I'm not opposed to inflation. When you're in a high debt environment, inflation's good. You borrow money at $2019 and you pay it back in $2030. The $2030, you have more of the 2019 loan doesn't inflate when inflation happens. The 2020 income inflates to 2030 income, so you have more money to pay back your loan. Inflation's good when you have debt. Higher interest rates brings housing prices down. But like something's got to get, we've got to get more money in order to cover the inflation. But that's a lagging process. Like that's a 12-month lag. Like inflation goes up for all of 2022. You don't get your raise until 2023 to cover the inflation that's happened. And so people, instead of getting 2 and 3% raises in 2023, they should be getting 10 and 12% raises if they're just going baseline raises. That's going to really help with Social Security and all this other stuff, Medicare, Social Security, all the other payments that are based on inflation rates and things like that, but cost of living increases, all that shit. But I mean, something's got to give. Something's got to give. It's a worldwide inflation situation. It's not an inflation situation right here. And again, I'm not necessarily opposed to inflation. It just needs to not happen all at once. But they've got to get more people to fill the jobs, or they've got to add automation to make it easier for the people who have the jobs to do the work they do. And in some cases, you can't add automation to make the job easier. You can't add automation at I don't know. You probably add automation just about anywhere you go, to be completely honest. But I don't know. Something's got to give. Something's got to give. I don't know. I don't know what it is, though. Powell was indicating a slowdown. I thought he was talking about next year, though. Yeah. It's been 10% for a long time. Wages didn't keep pace. Inflation's been 10% for about a year. And it's been 6 to 8% for about a year. But like I said, something's got to give. They can't keep up. And yeah, like I also said, inflation's at 10% in June, but you don't get their pay raise until January. So, and in some cases March. My old employer would tell us that our raises were coming in January, but they wouldn't kick in until the March payroll, which was a dick move, an absolute dick move. The drop the money supply after the giant spike from the Fed buying their own bonds during the pandemic, which led to an unprecedented. Maybe, but that money supply didn't go into circulation. So when the Fed bought all their stuff and took their own bonds back, that put money into the money supply, but that money didn't go back into circulation. So I don't know. They did the same thing back in the pre-pandemic in the mortgage crisis and in the .com crash. They jacked a bunch of money, especially during the mortgage crisis. They jacked a bunch of money into the system, but the money didn't go into circulation. All that money went into reserves for the banks. So I don't know. I don't know if that's what was causing the shock to the system this time or not. I don't know. I don't know. Um, something's got. Yeah, that was a movie, wasn't it? Something's got to give. That was a movie. Um, Never gotten a raise before March. Yeah, I used to get raises, but the company I worked for prior, the two companies ago, would do raises in January. We'd have our performance evaluation in the either the end of December or the beginning of January, and then the raise would hit on the last payroll in January. Um, Shadow stats is more better than official rates. Okay. Um, oh yeah, when they sent the that's right, that's right. They did. They sent the stimulus checks out. That went straight to the people. You're right. That did. The stimmy checks went straight to the people. But that wasn't the Fed that wasn't the Fed dicking around with the money supply. That was the that was Congress sending cash out to the people. But even then, they were that was a situation where it wasn't the money that was causing the problem. It was the lack of supply. It was a breakdown of the supply side economics because supply side economics is predicated on the fact that you have more production than uh, than consumption. You have this surplus of production, and that drives the prices down on everything. And then it makes it cheaper for people to buy their stuff because the supply side economics says supply the shit out of products. We had a breakdown on the supply side. We had lines of ships outside of ports, and we had lines of ships, lines of rail cars waiting to get loaded. We had lines of trucks waiting to get uh, to offload containers from rail cars. We had a breakdown on the supply side. We still have a breakdown on the supply side because China still hasn't completely undone their COVID restrictions over there. It's just, I don't know. Like I said, something's got, because it's not just us. The supply side the breakdown of the supply side of side economics has fucked the entire world. It's not just happening here, it's happening everywhere. But yeah, the checks did get into people's hands, but people have checks in their hands, but that's been over a year. That has been over a year since the last stimulus checks went out to people. So, yeah, I mean, I find it hard to believe that that's the big problem. Um, and a lot of those checks went to pay rent, went to pay like the basic stuff that people needed. They had rent, cable, or rent, internet, mortgages, um, food. Food is a big problem right now. Eggs are for us. Eggs are $6, $5, $5 for a 12 for a 12 kind of eggs, a dozen eggs. $6 for 18. It's cheaper to buy 18 eggs than it is to buy 12. Surprisingly, um, but chicken is still cheap. But beef is on the verge of getting really cheap and then really expensive again because a lot of ranchers here in Texas are sending their cattle to slaughter early because they don't have enough to feed them. Um, Food is a big problem right now because during the pandemic, farmers were culling their herds because people weren't buying. I guess weren't buying as much food. There wasn't as much going to restaurants. There was a kind of a collapse in the supply chain on that side. And when you cull the herd. The price change went through with chicken already, I guess, because we already saw a drop in the price of chicken meat, which led to because of the reduction of chicken, they dumped all their chickens on the slaughterhouse, so the price of chicken meat went down because there was a surge of supply, and then the supply started coming back down. The inventory of chickens came up, but as the inventory of chickens came back up, it was a reduction of the amount of eggs available, which is why the price of eggs has spiked up right now. Um, but it's I don't know, it's a process of watching the snake metabolize the antelope. There's this big old lump going through the body of the snake, and it's I can tell you from my side, the distillery side, the supply stuff has not sought because a lot of the alcohol that was in storage was used for um, disinfectant and hand sanitizer. So a lot of that alcohol that had been available for folks like us, small distillers, to use to kind of fill in the gaps, is not available anymore. And what is available has gotten very, very expensive. And that expense is not going to go away anytime soon because it takes 5 years to make whiskey. So there's a whole lot of question marks on my side as far as that goes. I mean, the supply is just not, it hasn't recovered. It hasn't fully recovered yet, and we're seeing the ripples of the disruption going through. I don't know if it was all about the stimulus checks. I mean, that was not that wasn't nothing. That was part of it, absolutely. But $600 stimulus checks were not blowing up the economy. That's not. I mean, if a single check for $600 is enough to make you quit your job and not work for a year, if $600 in your hand is enough to spike inflation 18 months after the first one came out, because the first set of them came out in the summer, I believe I think we got two checks in 2020, and then another check in 2021, or one check in 2020 and two checks in 2021. It wasn't a lot of money that was going into people. I mean, we're talking. There was the child tax credit that was simply a diversion from the credit that you would have gotten in April and put into your pocket this month instead of getting it at the end of the year. You got it at the beginning of the year. Um, and then the actual stimulus checks, which was only, I think, like $1,800, $2,400 total. And we're not talking like a lot of money. We're not talking like a whole lot of money in people's hands, but just enough to keep people afloat and get people by. But it was not a tremendous amount of money. Um, there was unemployment money, unemployment credits that were extended, put into states' hands, and extended out the unemployment benefit. But I don't recall. I think there was only, if I recall, only three stimulus checks from March 2020 to the end of 2020. From March 2020 to the end of 2021. I think there were only three. Hey Siri, how many stimulus checks were sent out during the pandemic?
Okay, I found this on the web for how many stimulus checks were sent out
Three
during the
rounds.
pandemic.
Yeah, there were
Check
three
it
rounds of
out.
stimulus checks, including the tax credit advancement. But the tax credit advance was just your normal child tax credit that just came out earlier. That's all it was. So, like I said, there wasn't a lot of stimulus money that went out. That can't possibly have been what blew up the economy. Because again, our stimulus checks didn't fuck up France's economy. Our stimulus checks didn't fuck up Germany's economy. Our stimulus checks didn't fuck up Japan's economy. Our stimulus checks fucked up our economy, if that was what fucked up our economy. But I mean, it's a worldwide inflation problem going on right now, and I think most of the inflation problem can be traced back to a breakdown of the supply side economics. Um, so yeah, and yeah, no, you're right. They never really have done that before, except for in 2000. Both of what was it, 2003, no, 2001, and then 2003, when George Bush sent out a bunch of tax refund checks. Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been done before. It's never been done before, but it was done before twice, at least twice. um, so yeah. um, the Fed had to fund those checks. They normally issue bonds to the private sector. The Fed, instead of the private sector money back in, they got it from themselves. Sure. Reason TV taking this was talking to some, really now. Okay. Um, check the M3 spike. It's insane. That's Fed policy. The government just spend more. We know the government can just spend more. Yeah, the government can continue to spend. Um, Series M. Okay. The boom in goods in the last year or so. I imagine veal will spike around Easter based on wild ass guessing. Clearly stated the issue is how the Fed funded the checks, not the checks. Oh, I got you. Okay, so it's how the Fed funded the checks. Yeah. Uh, and maybe that was part of it. I don't. I really don't know. I don't know. But mm, I gotta. I'm a firm believer that supply side economics works really well for the consumer and for the consumption based economy. And when you break down, I mean, we've been working under this paradigm for 40 years that more production reduces the price. That's one of the reasons why production was moved over to China, because you could just produce the shit out of things in China in their giant gigafactories that would just pump out millions and millions of units a month, and you could just produce the crap out of stuff. It drove the prices down, continues to drive the prices down. And if prices are being driven down, then the inflation stays down. Inflation stays down, then you feel like you're richer, even though you're not making any more money. And we were literally borrowing against our own future for 40 years in a low interest rate and low inflation environment. And in a low interest rate environment, the house prices go up astronomically fast. In a low inflation environment, your paycheck goes farther and farther and farther, and you don't need to get paid more because it feels like you're not sliding back. It feels like you're still you're making more money, and you're making more money, and you're making more money, and you can buy more stuff and buy more stuff and buy more stuff, because even though your paycheck isn't going up significantly, the price of goods continues to fall, or at least stays the same. So everything works out really well. But then once you put a ripple in that supply side, it fucks things up. So and I'm sure that part of the money supply, the part of the problem was the money supply, and you got to claw that back a little bit. But when you claw that back, it causes the same kind of shock to the system that we saw back in the early '80s when they did claw that stuff back the last time. But then things got back under control. So I don't know. I don't know. I like the idea of having our debts inflated away. I really like the idea of making 50% more money in 2 years and having my debt to equity ratio reduced by 30%, significantly reduced in 2 years. That's a great plan. I love it. I mean, I'm down. Um, I don't like the idea of paying $10 for a dozen eggs. I don't like that idea at all. But if I'm making if your household income goes from $60,000 to $120,000, then I'm okay with paying $10 for a dozen eggs if I'm making 120 grand. I'm okay with that. That's a trade-off I'm willing to make. Um, I mean, I don't want to pay a quarter for a burger and $1,500 for a house if that means that my household income is going to be uh, uh, you know yeah, $18,000. I don't like that plan. I don't like that plan at all. Um, and our household income is $18,000, and we don't have the creature comforts that we're comfortable with now. We don't have air conditioning. We don't have the house is a fifth of the size of it as it is now, and we don't have air conditioning, and we don't have appliances that run on electricity, and we don't have washer and dryer and a refrigerator that doesn't use ice cubes or blocks of ice to keep the thing cold. It's a trade-off that we've had. We have a much higher standard of living, but everything's more expensive, but we make a whole lot more money. Um, it's a big trade-off. And over time, we are much more prosperous because of it. But that got in the way, and it was something. Again, something had to give in the late '70s when you're talking about significant inflation, significant unemployment, and a looming threat of millions of retirees hitting the Social Security and Medicare system all at the same time. Something had to give, and what gave was inflation, and it served us very well for 40 years. And we might be looking at a new economic paradigm that we've never experienced before. Low unemployment, high inflation. Um, Low unemployment and high inflation. Maybe that's the new economic paradigm that we're looking at for the next 5 years. Uh, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. You work in financial services. You tell us. Are we looking at a new financial paradigm for the next 5 years? Is that what we're looking at? Is that what's going to happen? Housing prices are going to flatline and maybe go back down because interest rates are going up. Unemployment's going to stay low in the 3.5% range. We're going to start importing workers from all around the world again because we need people to fill jobs. Is that what's going to happen? We'll start making more and more and more money, 10, 12% raises every single year. Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. I don't know. Think about how the QE worked. Quantitative easing, yeah, right. Worked during the last recession. We passed laws that greatly reduced and limited banks' ability to lend. This pulled down the money supply instead of risk deflation. The Fed started the policy of quantitative easing. This allowed the banks to become more conservative lending while not causing a shock to the money supply. And yeah, maybe that's the next thing we do is go back into the quantitative easing I think they kind of drew that down to an end in the last 5 years or so. I think quantitative easing kind of came to an end between 2016 and 2020, if I recall. They kind of just wrapped that shit up. But maybe it's time to do something about that again. Maybe it's time to I mean, banks still don't lend any fucking money. Oh, if you don't need it, they're happy to lend it to you. But if you need a loan, they do not lend it to you. We funded stimulus effectively with quantitative easing versus issuing bonds. The private market would buy back, assuming 1-to-1, you don't change the money supply, or at least minimal. Huh. But yeah, I don't know. I honest to God, I do not know. I don't know what's going. I don't fucking know. I am legitimately concerned about the supply of my product. I'm legitimately concerned about the supply of my base product. I've already raised the price on my bourbon by $5 from when I released it. From when the last time I released it 2 years ago. I raised the price from $10 from $50 to $60. But my other stuff pretty much stayed stable. I think I take that back. I've raised the price on my straight whiskey and special reserve. The rye stayed the same. I haven't changed the price on that, but I probably should. You don't own a house, but you've been able to borrow over $300,000 in the last year. I have been able to. Well, what have I been able to borrow the last 3 years? Borrowed $50,000. Well, it was a loan. It was a crowd-funded loan. I haven't asked for anything from the bank the last 5 years. Huh? Maybe I should go back to the banks and ask them for some money. Maybe it's time to go bother the banks for some fucking money. What I'm really excited about, though, what's been in the news the last couple of days, what I'm super duper excited about to see I want to talk to my science friends and find out about this shit. The fusion, the news about the fusion reaction, the successful fusion reaction where they got fusion that generated more power than it cost to create it. I mean, granted, it was a successful experiment. It's not large enough scale to commercialize yet, but that's what engineers are for. Once you show it can be done, the engineers can sit down and say, okay, do we need to make this the size of a briefcase, or do we need to make this the size of a fucking coliseum? What do we need to do, and how do we need to do it? But boy, once the first full-scale fusion reactor comes online, that is the end of a carbon-based economy. I mean, holy shit. That's cuckoo crazy. What are you saying here? I wouldn't want that business loan at today's rates. Oh no. Certainly not. Not at today's rates. I mean, today's rates for business loans are going up above 6%. Back in the day, it was closer to 3 and 4. I think our first loan, our first 50 grand that we got when we started the business, we got 50 grand loan, startup business loan from Mid South Bank, and I think the rate was 3%. And they were just fucking giving money to anybody. You showed up and fogged a mirror, they give you a loan. You got an EIN for your business? Great. Here's $50,000 business startup loan. It was amazing. Um, the we would be almost 100% nuclear if we cared, except 3 Mile Island came out at around the same time as uh, what was that movie? Hey Siri, what was that movie that came out at the same time as the 3 Mile Island accident?
Okay, I found this on the web for what was the movie that came out at the same time
The
as the
China
3 Mile
Syndrome.
Island accident. Check it out.
The China Syndrome came out around the same time as the 3 Mile Island deal. Uh, the same, and there was it was an unfortunate coincidence because I think the China Syndrome was about a uh, nuclear meltdown that sent all the nuclear waste to the core of the earth and it killed the planet or some shit. I don't remember the exact details, but that movie coinciding with the 3 Mile Island accident would basically sounded a death knell uh, for the future of nuclear power in the United States. And there's a whole bunch of ignorance and misinformation um, about nuclear waste and how much is it, what it is, and what it does, and all this other shit. But fusion doesn't have any of that. Fusion is just hot. Um, Fusion is just hot, super duper hot, and fusion makes helium. You take hydrogen, smush together the atoms, and you make helium. That's it. Helium and heat. That's what you get. And one large fusion power plant uh, powers the West Coast, and you're done. And that's okay. We're done. We only need like 8 of these, and fucking start shutting everything fucking down. Coal plants go away, gas plants go away, everything fucking goes away. You're going to start hearing stories about how fusion reactions will, if there's a problem with a fusion reactor, it'll take out an entire city. Do you want this thing in your town? Because it'll take out your town if there's an accident. Um, you're going to start hearing all kinds of propaganda about that shit, funded by guess who? Um, my beard is so white color. It's almost, man, I look, it's gotten whiter. It's gotten lighter in the last like month. Anyway, but yeah, we're gonna start hearing all kinds of propaganda how dangerous fusion reactions are, and um, yeah. Have you seen Chat GPT? No, I've never seen Chat GPT. I don't have any idea what Chat GPT is. It's an AI program that's able to effectively write. I've heard about it. Yeah, I've heard about that. They're really good at writing financial articles. They're really good at writing. Um, they're really good at writing financial articles, and they're really good at writing like movie recaps. But they're less good at writing current event articles, and they're less good at writing about sports. I've heard about it, but I've never seen the app directly. But I heard about it on some NPR podcast. Fascinating, fascinating technology. Absolutely fascinating technology. Um, yeah, if you keep it shorter, it looks darker. Yeah, I guess so. The longer it gets, maybe that's what it is. It's just long. But look at that. It's like it grows down until it gets to the bottom. This is the bottom of my jawline right here, and then it just kind of fluffs out. Yeah, you see all that fluff? That's all like below my jawline right here. This is my jawline. This is all below the jawline. It just kind of, but it doesn't do the same thing over here. This is the jawline right here. Anyway. Okay, so it is 1:54. I've gone another hour. Dustin, you've pushed me one extra hour. I appreciate that, my man. Um, that is true. It is definitely better than a lot of the ESPN uh, online talent or on air. Anyway, okay, I need to wrap this up. I need to get my mom needs to go to the airport in 6 hours, 7 hours. So I need to wrap this up. Dustin, I appreciate it. Everybody else who's coming to chat, JLM, Sunflowers, um, Miss Kitty, Vanessa, Kitty, um, just trash ESPN for an entire fucking show. I saw Lazy Nate in chat. Who else do we have in chat? JLM, Lazy Nate, Taco Syndicate. Can't forget Taco Syndicate who came into the party. Everybody, y'all, I had a great time. Thank you all for coming and joining me. Thank you for the engagement. Thank you for the chat. Stay tuned for more, not tonight. Don't stay tuned tonight. Stay tuned in the future for more information about our 72-hour super long live stream. I do need to confirm that I can go longer than 12 hours on YouTube, that they won't cut me off. But we'll do something on that show. We'll make a big deal. We'll make a big deal. We'll make a big show. We'll make all this stuff happen. Might even give away a bottle of the whiskey that we bottle up during the show. That'd be cool. That'd be cool. Done dumber things. Definitely done dumber things than that. But also it'll be pending what times I have available. If I can make sure I can have a 3-day block from Friday to Monday. You need to stop streams around 8 hours, otherwise it won't save the replay. Well, you see, I can record the replay on my own computer, and then I guess okay. Just start a new stream every 8 hours. Maybe that's what I do. I start a new stream every 8 hours. I could do that. Maybe every 6 hours. Do a new stream every 6 hours. Part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. Because it's not the same as Twitch. Twitch, you can go 24 hours, 36 hours, whatever it is. If you don't record the replay, you don't get. That's right. You need to have the replay recorded otherwise. Because if you don't convert the live to on demand, you don't get the replay. You don't get the watch time. So there you go. Hey, Sunflowers, we're actually wrapping it up right now. But if you want to, I can't go another hour. I can't. I can't. I have to bring my mom to the airport at 9 a.m. So I can't go another hour. I just can't. So we've got 35. Let me do the math here. 35 times 21 to 22 minutes. 22 minutes is 770 divided by 60 minutes is 12.8 hours. So we may have 13 hours of watch time for this show, which is not the 85 that I need, but it gets me a third of the way there, and it gives us something to do for tomorrow night to get the engagement that we need to get. We are doing a New Year's Eve stream. 1,300 rockets going into the sky for New Year's Eve. 1,300 rockets. You're done working for the year, so I'm down to a lot more rest of the year. Nice. That is exactly how vacation works. Indeed it is. But yes, for New Year's Eve, we're doing a stream, and we will be, I don't know when we're going to start, probably around 9 o'clock. And the rockets will go off for New Year's for the end of the year. So 11:59 p.m. So we'll probably start around 10. I will message you on Instagram for the reminder. Yes, indeed. Count on it. You can count on that. So in the meantime, and you're going to want to come around for the 72-hour live stream. And you're going to want to come around for the kangaroo fight. You're absolutely going to want to come around for that. So in the meantime, I will continue to be your friendly neighborhood sin merchant, the old humble guy himself. And you guys think with your whole brain, love with your whole heart, and be awesome to each other. Cheers, and good night. Is that the one?